Welcome, everyone. You got me. You see Chris. He's obviously still relaxing on vacation. And we're here for a really fun episode of Cloud Career Job Training. We'll talk about types of cloud engineer jobs, types of cloud architect jobs, and it's going to be a lot of fun. At some point, my buddy and brother Elonzo is going to join me in the show. He's dealing with some technical challenges right now, specifically related to meeting up with someone he's got to do something with, but he'll be here very, very soon. And we look forward to seeing him here. So, my name is Michael Gibbs. I'm the founder and CEO of Go Cloud Careers, for those of you that know me. And for those of you that don't, I've been working in tech now for as long as I remember, 25 years, ever since I left internal medicine. And I've been helping others get their first tech job or getting promoted in tech for 2 decades. And Chris is going to be asking me lots of cool questions tonight about building people's careers. We're going to have lots of fun, but I've got a few announcements to make first. We're going to do a completely free Azure Solution Architect Expert Bootcamp, and it's going to be a lot of fun. And it's going to start on June 14th. It's going to be live. It's going to be free, and we're going to have a really great time of it. I know that there's courses out there that are basically PowerPoint slides with audio, and I would never wish that on my worst enemy. I want to get you guys real training like you would in a classroom. We'll teach live as real humans for about 20 minutes. We'll take about 10 minutes of questions like you would do if you took a real training boot camp, and it'll be fun. And we'll leave the content on YouTube and you'll be able to watch it again and again. We'll leave it up there free. And guess what? Our free Azure Solution Architect training is going to be up there with our free CCNA training, along with our free AWS Certified Solution Architect Associate training and our AWS Advanced Networking training. It's going to stay live on our YouTube channel free. So please register. The link is in the description below. Some more free training to help you build your best cloud career and help you get that cloud architect job or cloud engineer job. Chris, you're kind of disappeared with that virtual background.
So I noticed. It's like, okay, maybe I do need to go back on vacation. I don't know.
I think Chris needs to go back on the vacation because he's looking like Casper the Friendly Ghost, a really fun guy for my career. So on May 25th, we're going to have a free interview session. And I've interviewed thousands and thousands of candidates, and I know exactly what it takes. I've spoken to thousands and thousands and thousands of hiring managers and thousands of recruiters, and I've gotten more people jobs than I can count. And it all starts with a good interview, and I'm going to do some free interviews live on YouTube. Register free. The link is in the description below. Now, regarding the cloud engineering program, we've had a bunch of people sign up for a little while, but I'm going to keep it open for just a little longer. We're going to run this discount 50% off until Friday. And once Friday's gone, we will never, ever run a discount like that again. So if you desire your first cloud engineer job, please sign up for the cloud engineer program. Tell your friends until Friday, this is going to be 50% off. And then after that, it's no longer an introductory discount. And then it's off to normal classes, and we'll train lots of cloud engineers then too. Now that's better. Chris is in St. Petersburg, and it looks a little more like St. Petersburg. So that's better for the newscaster when he starts coming on and doing his thing. Remember, we've got a cloud architect career development program. Again, this morning, somebody told me they got cloud hired. They announced it in class. This wonderful person that announced it in class today has been with us now for about 6 months. He just graduated college. He's never worked in tech ever in his life, and he just got hired by AWS as a solution architect. So if you're looking to get that first solution architect job, cloud architect job, we want to train you. And we know exactly how to do it. We've been training architects forever. So things we'll talk about on this show might be a cloud architect versus a cloud engineer. We'll discuss cloud architect training, solution architect training, cloud engineer career development, cloud engineer training. We'll talk about cloud computing fundamentals training and why that's so critical. We'll talk about, guidance, so give you tech career guidance to maximize your career if you're looking for that. We're always willing to talk about cloud engineer job training, cloud engineer courses, cloud engineer training, and of course, cloud career coaching, because that's what we do, tech career coaching. So hope you've had a fun time. Let's kick off the conversation. I'm going to turn it over to Chris because, since Elonzo's not here, Chris is going to host this.
Well, apparently everybody else can see me. I can't see me. I see a black box where I'm supposed to be.
So, I can see in St. Petersburg, Florida.
Yeah. So apparently I had to remove I had to get out of the hammock and take off the hat. Come back to work, not disappearing anymore, it looks like. So that was the key. Had to get out of my vacation mode. So like Mike said, today we're going to talk a little bit about cloud architect and cloud engineers, and specifically the types of cloud architects and cloud engineers. Some of the more specialized roles, because here at Go Cloud Careers, we encourage all of our students to pick something that they want to do. Like if they want to specialize in something, then know that going into your career path. There are generic cloud architects, generic cloud engineers, but there's also opportunities to specialize in areas like security and things of that nature. But I don't know about any of that stuff. Mike knows all about that stuff, so we're going to ask Mike about that. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to ask Mike if he could break down, not in detail, just an overview, a quick description of like the name and a sentence or two about the different cloud architect roles that there are, that someone might be able to specialize in. And we can start off with the generic cloud architect and then go from there. Obviously, generic is not a specialty, but it's a starting point.
And that's a good point. And let's start with the fundamentals. What is a cloud architect? And this is a person that designs a solution to promote digital transformation, meaning we find ways to use technology, cloud-based technologies, non-cloud-based technologies, heck, an ice machine, who cares? Whatever it takes to make our businesses more profitable. So what that means is we plan the technology. Now, most of what we do as cloud architects is we take the stuff out of the network in the data center, meaning virtual machines, containers, firewalls, block storage, object storage, file storage, load balancers, etc., etc., and we move that stuff to the cloud. That's what we do. So as a cloud architect, our main knowledge is the network in the data center, because when we take it to the cloud, guess what the cloud is? Just another network and data center that's been virtualized. So for us as cloud architects, we are a system designer. And as a cloud architect, we don't touch the technology, never. We don't code, we don't configure, we're not hands-on people except for the technical architect, which is an engineer, and we'll talk about that later. We are digital transformation specialists. We do the following three things. We design, we present, and we sell. And if we don't know system design and we can't deliver a killer presentation to a 5,000 person audience and we can't sell, we are not hired. So that is the most critical part of our ability to design, present, and sell. And what are those skills? They are network and data center skills, plus they are emotional intelligence skills, sales skills, business acumen, meaning things like knowing what to say to the CXO, what's called CXO relevancy. What do you say to the CEO versus the CFO versus the CTO versus the CIO versus the COO? And guess what? They all care about different things. It's dealing with an intuitive personality like me, like your average CEO is, a visionary guy, versus an analytical person like Chris is over there. He thinks exactly differently, me, almost opposite in a lot of cases. And you know what? I need that, because companies that have a CEO that's got a dream, well, in order to get that dream to reality, we need someone like Chris that knows how to do it. So, we have to be relevant to all of those audiences. Now, here's the thing, as cloud architects, we need to know, and even for cloud engineers, no business buys tech because they like it. They're not like us. They're not geeks. They don't love this stuff. So if you're going to talk as an architect to your customer, I got this new cloud thing. It's better. It's fast, fast, fast. They're like, yeah, so leave. So here's the thing. Businesses buy technology to solve business problems. So you need to be able to do something called an ROI model. What does that mean? You need to evaluate the customer's business, create a technology solution, and show what that solution is. And show the customer that, hey, look, if they spent $100 million on your tech, they're going to get $2 to $3 million, $100 million of business value. So these are the kind of things that we're typically dealing with as architects. Design, present, and sell. We're going to have stellar negotiation skills. We're going to have executive writing skills, which are different writing skills. We're going to be responding constantly to requests for information, requests for query, requests for proposals. And like I said, we're going to be designing, presenting, and selling. So that's the main thing. But as a general cloud architect, a person that takes network and data center solutions to the cloud, our skills are really the following. We need to know that network. What is in the network? BGP, OSPF, WAN technologies, IPsec tunnels, SSL-based tunnels, Ethernet over MPLS, Ethernet private lines, serial private lines, software-defined networking, SASE. That's the networking stuff. IP addressing, subnetting, supernetting, for example, route summarization aggregation, switching, VLANs, VLAN tagging, VLAN trunking, spanning tree protocol, etc. DNS, DHCP, ARP, proxy ARP, that kind of stuff. That's our world. Load balancers, network load balancers, application load balancer stacking, storage architectures, what kind of storage to use, when to use it, why to use it, what kind of ways to secure your systems. And when we deal with cloud security, we're not going to use basic stuff like WAF and Shield. We're going to be using real security infrastructure, enterprise-grade security, enterprise-grade remote access, enterprise-grade IDS, IPS systems, and next-generation firewalls for the vast majority of the people that hire us as architects. So our world is that. That's what we need to know. And our world is about, we need to know it so well that we can design it, present it, and sell it, because you can't design what you don't understand. But we don't touch the tech. So if you ask a cloud architect, can you configure that? They're going to say no. So that's the generic architect. Now, here's the thing. That's a big role that I just told you. It's about 75,000 pages to be a CCIE just to learn the networking stuff. And that's not all of it. Now we're talking, we're talking about enterprise resource planning applications, CRM applications. We got to know how all that stuff works and integrates to the business. So the cloud architect itself is a generalist. And a cloud architect, solution architect is basically the same thing. Here's the difference. A cloud architect works on multiple clouds and knows multiple clouds, and a solution architect only knows one cloud. In my mind, the solution architect is a dead career. And the reason it's a dead career is 87% of customers are all on multiple clouds right now, which means it's not a job for the solution architect. It's a job for a cloud architect. And 97% of customers claim to be on 2 clouds by the end of the year. So the cloud architect needs to know all clouds. OpenStack clouds, Nutanix cloud, the Azure cloud, the Cisco cloud, the Dell cloud, the Palo Alto cloud, the Google cloud, and the Azure cloud. And that's why we teach that in our cloud architecture training. That's the generic cloud architect, a designer, presenter, and a seller. Now, you just heard me describe about 30 people's careers full of knowledge. And I did. So what do we do as the generic cloud architect? We're basically like the internal medicine, a family practitioner. We're a coordinator of care. In football, there's somebody called the quarterback, I'm told from my friend, and they kind of coordinate who does what. So that's what our job as a cloud architect is. A customer's going to bring us in. We're going to get business requirements. They're going to say, I need to sell more. I need to cut expenses. And I need to do this. Then we're going to think of the tech that we need. And we're going to say, hey, we need some security. We need some databases. We need some networking people. Oh, wait, big data person, application architect. And then we bring in the other architects that are the specialists. And here's why. I literally have 10,000 hours of BGP experience. I know BGP in and out. I know what messages are sent. I know how to game the algorithm, to traffic engineer it. And you need to be that good to be able to do any of this stuff. And here's the thing. That could have taken me, and I've spent, honestly, 25 years working with just BGP. I still have a lot to learn. And that's what we're talking about with regards to experts. So I just told you a generic cloud architect. Now, how do you manage all this stuff? Well, customer calls and says, hey, Mike, I've got to meet you. Now, the customer has, basically speaking, $1 billion technology problem. And I go design, and I meet with that customer, and I'm like, okay, this is great. There's no way I'm going to design this $1 billion technology solution myself. So what I'm then going to do is I'm going to go out there and I'm going to say, I need help. And I'm going to call my buddy Praveen, who's a big data architect, and I'm going to call him and say, I need your input. And I'm going to call my buddy, Keith. And I'm going to say, hey, I need the world's greatest security architect. And he's going to say, I'm coming in to help you. And I'm going to say, I don't really understand how these applications work. I'm going to call my buddy Angelo. He's a fantastic application architect. And then I'm going to say, wait, even though I'm a network architect, I can't be focused on the network and not the end-to-end solution. So I'm going to bring in another network architect. Now together, we're going to design the solution together. Together, we're going to present it, and it's going to be a magical solution. So what am I as a generic cloud architect? Someone who designs, presents, and sells, and I coordinate or facilitate the expertise of others. Okay, so now, who are these others? Well, they can be engineers or architects at this point, and I'm probably going to use both. And we'll talk about the differences soon. When I need deep technical people, I'm going to use engineers. When I need more businessy, more communicative people, more explanations, I'm going to use architects, and we're going to talk about why that is too. So that's beyond that. So now you know this. So now let's say I need a cloud architect, cloud network architect. What's that look like? A big bank says, Mike, I need somebody that can deal with all this stuff. And I look at it and I say, wow, you've got 10,000 remote locations, 40,000 subnets, 10 gig internet connections to the internet. And I go, uh-oh, I need a network architect for this. So the network architect is like me. It's a Cisco certified internet expert as a rule, maybe on the light side, a Cisco certified network professional, someone that knows BGP real well and OSPF real well and intermediate systems to intermediate systems real well and potentially even EIGRP real well. Someone that's an expert at switching and WAN transport protocols. And I could go on and go on. IP addressing. These are the people that design your subnet plan. They design your WAN plan. And these are really expensive people. But you know what? All they do is the network. This is the person that's going to be looking at your VPCs and your VPC peering and your architectures and your multi-cloud architectures. This is an expensive person to hire. This is a several $100,000 a year architect because they're a specialist. And specialists, as a rule, are in extreme demand because almost nobody knows the network. And look at it this way. Facebook made a BGP configuration error, and it took them down for like 8 hours. The Google Cloud was down last year because somebody made a BGP misconfiguration error. AWS had something they called an impaired network, and guess what? If that was a networking thing and not something else under another name, then they needed better network engineers and architects, and that wouldn't have happened. So people love network architects, and I got to tell you, after 25 years in tech, what do people think about? The applications and the software. What do they not think about? The network. What breaks everything? The network. So the network person is really critical. So what's that look like? It's someone, and generally speaking, it's a CCIE or a CCDE, someone that's got extremely good communication skills, sales skills, emotional intelligence, RO modeling, business acumen, all those things I talked about for the cloud architect. Everything is the same. They're an architect. So they don't configure, they design, present, and sell. But they're selling networking stuff. So that's a network architect. Now there's this kind of hybrid called the cloud network architect, kind of like me. Who's this guy? This guy focuses on the network and the cloud-based networking. Same as the network architect, but they know a little bit more about the cloud. Now here's the thing with the architect positions. They are never more than 50% technical. They're at least 50% business at all times. How about a cloud security architect? What's that look like? Wait, it's a security architect. So do not think you're going to become a cloud security architect by getting cloud security certifications. And here's why. Security is a global problem, a big problem, a global problem. Security is a problem in the data center. Security is a problem in the battlefield. Security is a problem in the cloud. So what is a cloud security architect? It's someone that knows cloud and security, meaning you have to be a cloud architect, but you also need to be a security architect. So the way security people would be trained, traditionally speaking, is going to be as follows. Security people typically learn offensive or defensive security. Ideally, they know both. So this is a person that's going to learn all about firewalls and firewall architecture, next generation firewalls. This person is going to be an expert on IDS, IPS systems and system monitoring. This person's going to be an expert in network security, 802.1x authentication, layer 2 access list, QoS, other forms of rate limiting, etc., etc. Deep knowledge here. This is going to be a person that has good understanding of authentication systems, such as Active Directory and Radius type servers and all the types of 1- and 2-factor authentications and federated identity management. That's a security architect. This is a person that really knows how to write a security policy, an end-to-end security policy. This is the person that can go in and try and figure out what's going on and determine the education and the training that needs to be done for the users. This person typically has like a CISSP type certification, which is not a deep technical certification. It's a mile wide and an inch deep because it's an architect. Again, the architect doesn't touch the tech, they design the tech. Now, the cloud security engineer would be on the tech all day, but these people are designing the policy, designing what it should look like, designing the architecture. So again, it goes back to design, present, and sell. So you're a cloud architect, plus you're a security architect. And I work with many of these people. How do we do it? Well, for everything, all my students, truthfully, I give them really deep networking and really deep security knowledge. And that's when my students go on an interview and they present the security. It's like, oh, wait, you know more about security than me, you're hired. And that happens all the time, especially at the big cloud providers. But the key is we train it deep. But you can train it deep if you're not one of our students yourself. But don't think that an AWS Advanced Security training is training. It's not. Don't think that a CompTIA Security Plus is training. It's not. You need deep knowledge of how it works. What are the flaws in operating systems? How do you manage those flaws? What needs to be done to harden a server? You don't do it, but you need to know these things. What kind of anti-malware protection needs to be on your servers? What kind of encryption strategies use? That's security work, just to keep that in your mind. So a security architect does what? Guess what? Does it on and off the cloud. A cloud security architect does it on and off the cloud. Oh, they're very similar. Guess what they are? The cloud security architect is primarily on the cloud, and the security architect is primarily on and off the cloud too. Not that much different. So you can see there's a lot of overlap in these things. And let's say you're a plain network architect like I was. Guess what? All the architectures they ask you to do are all cloud-based stuff. So now the cloud network architect is a network architect. The security architect is a cloud security architect. Keep that in the back of your mind. So, there's big data people too. What do they focus on? They focus on, the databases and data lakes and mapping and reduction of things. Big data, the kind of systems that can analyze the data, the kind of machine learning algorithms you can do on the data. And what's the point for these architects to design these systems? To design systems to give businesses better information to make better business decisions. That's why they have these systems. And that's what the big data people do. So these are your main technology versions of the architect careers, but that's not it. There's still different kind of architect jobs. So for example, I used to practice internal medicine. I was working as a network architect for a long period of time. And Cisco said, hey, Mike, we want to start a healthcare consulting division. Are you interested? And I said, what am I going to be doing? And they said, designing high availability, high security performance system for our hospitals. And I went, yeah, I'm interested. Now, what do you think happened when a network architect who can practice medicine decides that he's going to combine those two skills? My career did this. And what that's called the vertical industry architect. So someone like Chris on my team, if he was a cloud architect and he decided to focus on designing solutions for hotel chains and hotel systems, he'd be 10 times more valuable to that hotel than somebody that never knew about hotels. And that's called an industry specific or a vertical industry architect, hugely in demand. Now, the last two architect positions are extreme, and they're also way different in terms of pay. At the bottom of the pay scale, and this is going to be the lowest paid architect in the world, is a technical architect. And a technical architect is really an engineer. This technical architect is a technical guru. They are really strong. They've got good, strong, principled, distinguished engineering skills. And the company doesn't know what to do with them. They want to stay on the tech. They want to pay this person more than the engineer, so they call him a technical architect. That's a techie. That's an engineer. That's the only person that does more than design, present, and sell. And what that person does is a lot of hands-on technical work. Like I said, they're an engineer with a different title. Now, at the extreme end of this is the enterprise architect. The enterprise architect now works on and off the cloud and is your highest paid architect. And your enterprise architect is the least technical of the bunch. When I worked as an enterprise architect, I was so far removed from the tech. It was the super high level position. All I did was talk to CEOs, CIOs, CTOs, and I'd say 80% of that job was all business, which was really good for me because I spent a fortune on MBAs and multiple master's degrees and soft skills training. And let me tell you, because I was designing, presenting, and selling and bringing in huge deals to the company, they could pay me well. So the enterprise architect is a business job with a little bit of tech knowledge, but you got to get the tech knowledge first and work as an architect before you get those jobs. So keep that in the back of your mind. They're your basic flavors of architects. You can be a specialist in a tech, specialist in an industry. Then anytime you specialize, you generally get much better opportunities, more jobs, higher pays, and I strongly, strongly recommend them. So that applies for cloud architects, that applies for cloud engineers, etc. But, I wanted to basically give you an overview of the architect and I'll answer lots of questions on what gets people hired, etc. When we're done, I want to make you happy, but let's turn it back to Chris right now.
All right. Yeah, it's still weird for me to only see a black screen, so it's I'm having to get used to this. Gotta love the magic of live TV. You never know what's gonna happen. Let's see here. All right. I'm assuming everybody can still see me. Otherwise, Mike would have said something by now.
Yeah, I can see you on the right side of my screen.
All right. Well, I see nothing on my right hand side.
Now you know what happens when I use my Mac on 16 monitors and they all disappear while I'm presenting.
Yeah, so I'm having to watch myself on YouTube so that I know what I look like, and so there's this
90-second delay.
15-second delay. So it's like I'm like this, and then over here I'm like this, and this I can't keep up with it. It's like looking at a different dimension.
And most likely Elonzo will be joining us then at some point.
Yep. So all right, let's so now that we've gotten the breakdown on architects, and I know I'm probably going to circle back to the architects in a little bit.
Can I answer one more thing before you do that, Chris?
Sure.
Because I know I keep saying it. The architect career is not a career that really benefits from certifications. There's one or two which we can talk about later that's very helpful. But certifications are a name of a service and how to configure it. And they don't really help with design, present, or sell. So there are certain certifications are not relevant. There are a few that are, and we can talk about it later. For the engineers versus the architects, and I will, but just keep that in the back of your mind. Getting a bunch of certifications does not build an architect career. Sorry, I cut you off, Chris. I just saw a bunch of those coming in.
Yeah, I was actually debating whether to take a couple of questions about the architects before we started talking about engineers, or wait till the end. It's our show. We can do whatever we want.
I'm happy to do either. It's just I saw a couple of people saying, if I get this cert and this cert, can I get an architect?
Right.
And the answer is always no.
Exactly.
The answer is always you need much more. And there are all those things that we described above. And none of that stuff is covered in certification, except for maybe the CCIE. And that only includes the technical elements. And then the non-technical elements are equally critical.
All right. Well, I've got a weird surprise here. And it's it's only because of necessity. I'm going to refresh my screen, which is going to kick me out. Because I can't handle not seeing myself in real time. It's just the dichotomy of not being able to see myself is not working. So,
I totally get it. I use a Mac and my screens disappear every 5 minutes.
Yeah. So I'm going to let you and Chow
plug 6 screens into a Mac.
I'm going to let you and Chow talk for a few minutes and have fun. Just don't talk bad about me. I'll be right back.
I won't talk bad about you. So let's do this, Chow. Chow, can you bring me some of those questions and I can answer them until Chris comes back? I'll answer like 2 or 3 questions.
Okay, I will do that.
Thanks, Chow.
Okay, see Chris in a minute.
Brian, good question. Generally speaking, a cloud provider will hire a solution architect, and here's why. If you work for that cloud provider, you're only allowed to sell that cloud provider stuff, and a person that only focuses on one cloud is a solution architect. So yeah, so cloud architects can always work as solution architects. And that's why cloud architect students get hired by AWS, Azure all the time. But solution architects don't have the capability to be a cloud architect without extra training.
There I am.
So I'll answer 2 or 3 more since we started, and we're going to go back to the engineering thing. And then I'll answer lots of questions in the end.
Yeah, I'm just excited I can see myself.
So Nathan, yeah, to answer your question, as a cloud architect, it's effectively the same as a solution architect, but a cloud architect is multiple cloud, solution architect is just one. Good question. Hi, Chris. Future possession of cloud architect by 2032. What does it mean a data architect on cloud? Please let us know cloud architect versus data architect. Well, a couple things I will say. We are so not even close to fully on the cloud. And when I actually speak to people that are trying to work in these fields, it's the wild, wild west of everybody that doesn't know anything. So huge need for cloud architects, and here's why. As things grow and things become more and more technology, and technology becomes much more incredibly complicated, you need more and more architects to actually design it. So much more architects. Now, data architects, I really have a challenge with big data careers, and here's the reason why. I know a lot of data scientists, In fact, many of them come to me to learn how to become cloud architects and cloud engineers because they can't get jobs in the big data world. So if you have a PhD in statistics, that will be helpful if you want to do a big data architect role. But this is a world of people that are good in statistics. They are extremely good at knowing all the machine learning things. They are very good at knowing the application architectures, all the ways that data can be interpreted, presented, and it's not going to be a job that's going to be easy to get. It's going to be very challenging. And as our machine learning algorithms get better, software engineering and all that stuff is going to be lower because these machine learning algorithms sometimes are going to be able to learn the code, but they can't design. Anytime you look at automated design, anything, it's always garbage. Hey, click these 4 boxes and it's going to configure it for you. No, use it. Here, run this thing and it's going to show you a picture of your network. Nope, don't use it. It's going to miss 80% of what's there. So yeah, so personally, I think cloud architect career is great, great, great. I think there's a lot of potential for big data, but given the challenges to get these jobs and the fact that they don't actually pay that much because they're so hard to get and there's a surplus of people, not something I recommend. I like to be, when I look at the supply and demand curve, I like to have a really critical skill of which there's a lack of supply.
And
feel free to add here, Chris.
Do what?
Feel free to add it.
Yeah, it's my hidden superpower here, data science. But yeah, data architects are a very, I'm not sure if niche would be the right word here. If we're talking about it in comparison to a security or a network architect, then it's more niche than a specialty because they're just so, data is so tech and engineering heavy.
Yeah.
It's so science heavy, so machine learning heavy, so database heavy, not so much design.
Yeah.
And if the design is not so much big picture as it is a design of a really small, I don't know, not small, focus, a design of a really focused, hyper-focused solution. So it's data architects are very special. And when I say, and the reason I point that out is because of Mike said they're going to be harder to get because there's less of them, because it's so much more sciencey and engineer heavy that your funnel for people that are going to be working on these projects is really wide on the engineering and really small on the architect. So I just wanted to piggyback on that, just because that's just the nature of data. You need so many more people to get through the data.
Yeah, so you're dealing with a unique skill set. Even people with PhDs and 7 years of training for this still spend hundreds and hundreds of applications, only not to get hired. And when they finally do, it's because there's a surplus of so many people and there's not a big demand. It has potential, so much potential, but the data scientists I know are getting out of it.
It's like a very Almighty in the comment, rare. That's the word I was looking for. It's a rare position. It's a very rare technical architect position. That's how I would describe it, because it's just it requires so much technical knowledge. We could have Praveen on sometime to talk about that.
Yeah. I'll have Praveen on. He'll do a nice live show. I got a big data architect who's now working as a cloud architect. He came to me and now he's a cloud architect. But he's really rock solid.
Yeah.
20 years of that.
Went down a rabbit hole with that one.
That's okay. We know a lot about data architects and GoPro careers.
Yeah, I just don't want I don't want anyone to put a lot of time and effort into it if it's not something that they're really passionate about. So that's why I wanted to put that out there.
Make sure you love it to do that. It's not going to be hey, this is going to be my path to a great career. Do it.
Oh, Chow, you can't go backstage yet. You got one more question to put up. She sent me a Slack message saying she's going to go backstage. Like, nope, not yet.
Not yet. I like Chow being here. She makes me smile. Chow's a real important member of my team.
All right, so we can. I'll let you put Amir's question up, and then we can, and then you can go backstage. Bye, Chow.
Bye, Chow. Amir, hi, Mike and Chris. Chris, relation to a solution architect career. Will a PMP certification be any benefit to your career? Does it help you design, present, or sell a technology solution? If the answer is no, then no. Amir, this is not a career where certifications are going to build your career. An MBA, yeah, that looks good. Although I've gotten people cloud architect jobs without any college degree. But I'm trying to tell you, an MBA, yeah, that's good for your career. A CCNP, yeah, because it shows networking. If you're interested in networking, a CISSP, if you're interested in security, that builds your career. While no customer even knows what TOGAF means, and I built my whole career translating between TOGAF fluffy architectures to things that customers understand. I don't recommend TOGAF, but I could see that being potentially something that could be useful because it's an architecture certification. But even the AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional, it's like an intro to a configuration class. We don't configure, we design, present, and sell. So there's no certifications for the most part for an architect, kind of like the data scientist. There's no real great certifications for a data scientist. And here's the reason. Our career is that. So, imagine trying to build a medicine career like a doctor. Hey, I got these 40 certifications outside of my career, and say, hey, come to me and practice medicine. Now, having good program management skills, yes. But here's the thing. The PMP is typically thought of as a taskmaster. They're typically viewed as the rough around the edges person that gets people done. The architect is an elite executive with executive presence and business acumen, so it's building the wrong brand images also, which might make it even harder. So Amir, when I've got people that have too many certifications on their resume and they can't get hired, I remove certifications from them with their permission. They resubmit the resumes and they're hired within a week or two. So this is not a job about being certified. This is a job about being great at the job. Design, present, and sell. And it's a great question, Amir.
I forgot Chow left, so I got to take this message down. Where'd it go? Oh, oh, Chow, that was sneaky. So we'll come back to that one after we get Mike to talk about
it. And maybe you can provide some clarification because I don't really understand the question.
Yeah. So we'll get Chow surprised me with that one. I forgot Chow was still back there.
Okay.
All right. So now that we've answered some of the questions about the architect roles, one of the thing that really precipitated me us coming up with the idea about talking about this on the show was that we've now launched our cloud engineer program, and so we're starting to get questions, and we have a large volume of people that all started at once, and so a lot of people are starting to ask about cloud engineer roles in the same way that people ask about the cloud architect roles. And we have an entire cornucopia of information about the cloud architect roles out there. So now we need to definitely discuss the cloud engineer roles. And so let's approach this from the same perspective. Let's talk about what a cloud engineer is, and then let's talk about what a security cloud engineer would look like, and what a XYZ cloud engineer would look like, and what a Timbuktu cloud engineer. You can tell I'm not the tech guy, so I just come up with names. But I'll hand it back over to Mike to talk about the cloud engineer roles, and we'll go from there. And now that I can see myself, I won't look like I'm lost on the side over here.
Sounds good. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a division between a cloud admin and a cloud engineer. A cloud admin is someone that just configures stuff all day. They don't even know how it works. They just configure stuff all day. This is a career that can be built with something simple like an AWS Certified Solutions Architect Professional and a couple of cloud certs. But that is not a cloud engineer. That is a cloud admin. That is a very junior level, low-paying position, if you could even find one, and it's going to be really hard to do it, even with that certification. So I don't recommend anybody start at a cloud admin because that's the junior level. Well, I started the junior level when you can be a professional for the start. So the next thing that I would recommend is the cloud engineer. And here's the place. I started my career as not an admin, as an engineer, a senior engineer at that. So let's talk about the cloud engineer. This is a great career. So as a cloud architect, I design a solution, right? Based upon what the customer tells me. So have any of you seen blueprints for buildings that the architect designs and they show you what the front of the building is going to look like, what the windows are going to look like, and it looks like a pretty picture? And then guess what the architect does when they're done with it? The person who's the building, they hire a construction crew to go build it. And they need a foreman, they need a construction team, they need a land developer, they need people that know how it works. That's the cloud engineer. The cloud engineer is the cloud construction crew. We design it and they build it. Now, the cloud engineer is a professional, meaning they can't just know the name of a service and how to configure it, and you can't build a cloud engineering career on certifications. Although certifications, certain ones can be helpful, and we'll talk about them. But this is not a job you get based on certifications. Here's why. Cloud engineers do more than know a name of a service and how to configure it. They have to build stuff, and they need to be smart, educated, professional people. So I have deep respect for the cloud engineers. Here's why. As a cloud architect, I design it. If there's no cloud engineer, I've got a PowerPoint where and a Word document that looks really pretty, and I spent $100,000 buying dinners and drinks to my customer to go close this big deal, and we've got nothing. So the engineers are really important. Now, since the engineers are going to build things on the cloud, realistically speaking, what is the cloud? It's a network and a data center. So a really good cloud engineer has similar knowledge to the cloud architect, but different knowledge. See, the cloud architect like me designs it, but we don't touch the tech. The cloud engineer needs to know how it works, maybe to a lesser degree than the architect, but they need to know how to build it and how it works and how to optimize and how to tune it. So this is a deep technical professional. So a cloud engineer realistically needs to know about networking. What's that mean? It means BGP. It means interior gateway protocols such as OSPF. Guess what else it also means? IP addressing, subnetting, and supernetting, and route aggregation. It means WAN protocols such as IPsec tunnels, SSL tunnels, Ethernet over MPLS, MPLS-based VPNs, BGP-based VPNs, software-defined networking, SASE, private lines, etc. It involves switching, which includes VLANs, VLAN tagging, VLAN trunking, spanning tree, rapid spanning tree, etc. All those protocols such as NAT, one-to-one NAT, one-to-many NAT, static NAT, dynamic NAT, PAT. The cloud engineers need to know all this stuff and how it works. DNS, DHCP, and I don't mean topical knowledge. They need deep knowledge. The engineers are professional. But the engineer also needs to know the data center stuff too. What is the data center stuff? Well, servers and server virtualization. But remember, the cloud engineer is going to be working on these servers. They're going to be building them. So they need to be good with the command line of all the clouds. They need to be good with the management consoles of the clouds. And they need to understand to some degree infrastructure as code, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But the cloud engineer needs to know how to set up and build these virtual machines, how to lock down the virtual machines, how to configure them. So deep, deep, deep hands-on work. Now the cloud engineer will need to know, what do you call it, containers and orchestration of whether it works, and they're going to be building containers too. So there's going to be some development knowledge there. Not a lot, but at least how this stuff works. Then they're going to be working on load balancers. Like the architect, they need to know load balancers and how they work. When to stack load balancers, when to use enterprise load balancers like the F5, along with the elastic load balancers, another cloud load balancer to manage the virtual appliances, how to stack network and application load balancers. The engineers are going to be doing all this stuff. They're going to be setting up pre-warming of load balancers prior to holiday things to enable auto-scaling to work properly. Those cloud engineers are going to be masters of auto-scaling protocols on all the clouds. And they're going to be having to get pretty good at understanding how to configure firewall rails and security things. This is a deep generalist position. Now, what do we think the servers are that the cloud engineer works? Well, mostly Linux. So the cloud engineer needs to know Linux. Linux administration, Linux scripting, Linux, everything. Users, management, where your files are, how to automate in Linux, how to, search through the logs with a pipe or a grep and output somewhere else. Deep, 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 deep Linux knowledge, because 90% of all computers in the cloud are Linux, mostly Ubuntu Linux, but some Red Hat and some, SUSE and some others, but, mostly Ubuntu Linux because it's free, and some Amazon Linux. So this is really there. And this is what and we haven't scratched the surface. So the cloud engineer still needs to know more. And that's why you can't get this via certification, because this is not covered in certification. Now the cloud engineer is going to automate, so they're going to have to know how to write a bash script. The cloud engineer is also going to automate, so they're going to have to write a basic Python script. The cloud engineer is also going to need to know a little bit about Terraform and infrastructure as code. These are the baseline minimum knowledge for the cloud engineer. Here's the thing. That's not certification material. That's professional development. That's a body of knowledge. That's why the cloud engineer is not an admin. And that's why I created the cloud engineering program. Because here's the thing. I was interviewing all the 10x AWS certified people that have been unemployed and will always be unemployed because they didn't learn how to be architects. And I've gotten so many people hired as architects, even another one today. And, and our student today who just graduated college, that's never worked before in tech, got hired by AWS, and I'm so thrilled that he did. This is meaningful to us. And we do the same thing for cloud engineers, and that's why we created this cloud engineering program, because that's what it takes. But guess what? You want to know a secret? Do you know why architects get paid so much? And why architects get paid so much more than engineers? Here's the thing. The architects have greater soft skills and communication skills and business acumen. So when you train as a cloud engineer, here's the thing. Train them too. I do with our cloud engineers. I train them in sales. I train them in presentation skills. I train them in writing skills. I train them in CXO relevancy. I train them in leadership. And if you're that, you get hired as a cloud engineer, but you get paid a lot more too. See, training emotional intelligence on average raises somebody's salary about $30,000 a year. Training soft skills for the average technology professional raises their salary 30%. So you can be adding $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 a year by learning those skills, and we teach them as a cloud engineer. Why else do you want to do it? When you're kicking off your career as an architect or an engineer, when I interview you, 50% of your interview score is on your competency, but the other 50% is how much I like you. Why am I going to like you? You're easy to get along with. You got a great attitude. You're energetic, enthusiastic, and passionate. If I ask you a technology question about how it works, and you can explain it in a way that wows me, not only do I hire you, but I pay you more. If you communicate well to me and look me in the eye and have some presence on you, I feel confident that you can do more and I pay you more. So when you're getting your first job as an architect or an engineer, you have to be more likable. And that's why every Thursday I run that free webinar, How to Get Your First Cloud Job, where I tell you exactly what hiring managers are looking for. Be that and you're getting hired. So kind of keep that. Now, I gave you the average cloud engineer, and they're the fundamental skills. Without these skills, you'll never get hired. Now, here's the thing. You have these skills. That's not an exclusive list of skills. That doesn't mean that you won't learn things along the way, but you must know these. And I strongly encourage you, whether you train with us, and I encourage you to, especially right now, 50% off our cloud engineering program. But whether you train with us or train on your own, make sure you have those skills. Make sure you know it deep in your mind. And here's why I don't want you to focus on sysops and DevOps and cloud developing and all this irrelevant nonsense. Here's why. You can only learn so much. The skills that I just told you about, I spend upwards of 500 hours training my people to do this. And I literally speaking, want you to spend the next 2 years in your first job mastering that, because then you'll be an expert. And then, hey, wait, specialize in something, learn some security, become a network person and really master it. And it's good, but really get those fundamentals. And then when you want to branch out, whoa, good stuff's going to happen. So how do we branch out from here? Well, what's a big in-demand career? A cloud network engineer. What's that look like? Well, it looks a lot like a network architect, but this person's more hands-on and less design, present, and sell, and more nitty-gritty. So what do they need to know? Cloud network engineer. BGP, OSPF, intermediate systems, EIGRP, subnetting, supernetting, route summarization, route aggregation, route redistribution, WAN protocols, private lines, IPsec tunnels, VPLS, software-defined networking, SASE, IPsec tunnels, or whatever, switching, spanning tree, rapid spanning tree, NAT, VPC security, VPC peering, route reflectors and route reflector equivalents like cloud hubs, all that stuff. That's a cloud network engineer. And they're going to be doing that all day long. So they're going to be configuring the VPC, configuring the Cisco routers, the Cisco switches, it's all kinds of stuff. Wireless potentially in the customer site. That's what the cloud network engineer does. Hey, wait, that's what a network engineer does. What's the difference? Hey, they're on the cloud. Now, the cloud network engineer also will need to know Python. Network engineers like me, when in my youth, never used Python, but now we're pushing these things via API calls to routers, so now Python automation is part of the network engineer's job. So hopefully I can help you with that. So that's the cloud network engineer. And again, it's a really great job. Why? Because you're dealing with a network engineer, which is typically a very well-paid position. And you're marrying those skills with a cloud engineer, which is also a paid position, and now you're a specialist. So it's kind of like being on a SEAL team. You have to be a SEAL first, which means you got to be the world's greatest. And then after you're on that team, then you can specialize. There's a breacher, there's a sniper, or something like that. So same kind of thing. Get your skills and master them first. If you try to be a jack of all trades as a cloud engineer, and you tried to learn everything, here's what's going to happen. Effectively, your knowledge will be a lot about nothing. You'll have hobbyist knowledge, and people just don't hire hobbyists. They don't hire enthusiasts. They hire professionals. So I hope you understand that. Let's talk about a cloud security engineer. Actually, let's talk about certifications for the cloud network engineer, because certifications can be more helpful for the engineer than the architect. If the architect gets too many certifications, they look like a techie. And nobody wants a techie as an architect. They want a digital transformation specialist. But the engineer, they want a techie. So some network certifications can help the cloud network engineer. The Cisco Certified Network Professional. The Cisco Certified Internet Expert. Employers want that. They're not looking for the AWS Advanced Networking. It's too junior. Nobody cares. But they do want to see like a CCNP or a CCIE. And the minimum cloud certification that most of the time people want is the Certified Solution Architect Professional, or the Azure Solution Architect Expert, or the Google Professional Cloud Architect. And wait, I said architect certifications, not engineer certifications. Does that sound crazy? Well, the architect certifications are really engineering certifications, not architect certifications. And that's why I want you to do them. The cloud network engineer, again, you're going to need a lot of Linux knowledge, because there's a lot of Linux in networking. There's a lot of Python in networking. So the cloud network engineer needs to know this. So think network engineer that also knows cloud. Now let's get to security, Chris. So when we start talking about security, again, security, it's its own career. Somebody can spend their lifetime mastering security. And when we talk about security, there's two kinds of security we're going to talk about: offensive security and defensive security. And they're different. Cloud offensive security engineers do the following. They hack into systems. They get paid to do it. They're called white hat ethical hackers. This is typically your CEH master, your offensive security professional. Companies hire these people to break into the systems to determine the vulnerabilities. So this person is an expert on Kali Linux. This person is an expert on hacking tools. This person is an expert on operating system vulnerabilities. This person's an expert on firewall vulnerabilities, encryption vulnerabilities, every vulnerability that's out there. This is a hacker. So they need to be great at operating system vulnerabilities, learn every possible script, hacking tool, and be probably good at coding, because they break into stuff for a living. That's an offensive security professional. And what would that look like on a career? Maybe a certified solution architect professional, an Azure solution architect expert, a Google professional cloud architect, with like a CEH master or an offensive security professional, something like that. So kind of there's that. Now, I've worked security. I've done defensive security. That's a totally different kind of security. Now, this is more your CISSP, someone that knows the end-to-end security. What are your firewalls doing? What are your IDS, IPS systems doing? How do you set them up? How do you configure them? How do you design them? What's the security policy look like? What kind of anti-malware protection are you going to use? How do you set it up? How are you checking for vulnerability management? How are you checking for operating system patches? What kind of stuff are you using to identify systems that you don't even know exist? What kind of tools are you going to do when you find problems? How to remediate them? Are you setting up any kind of event-driven security? This is a deep security professional. Okay, you're dealing with maybe a CISSP. Again, stay away from all CompTIA certifications. In my experience, I've not found them helpful in getting anybody hired ever, except for the U.S. government. The U.S. government does hire CompTIA certifications. I generally recommend avoiding them for those reasons. The cloud security engineer, I like the CISSP. There's a CCSP, which is almost as good. It's fine. If you don't have a background, you can still take the CISP test, and then after that, they call you an associate until you have enough experience. But at least they know, the world knows you passed the harder ones, and you're good. Cloud security engineer, hands-on experience, firewalls, IDS, IPS, and switches, et cetera, et cetera. Great, great, great stuff. So there's that. And if somebody's asking me which security certification, is almost exclusively going to be a CISSP, and here's the reason why. It works for architects and engineers. And it's generally speaking one of the most in demand by CISOs or CIOs when they're looking to hire people. So I don't have a certification that I like versus not. There's nothing wrong with CompTIA certifications. They're fine. But employers aren't screaming, I need them. So I read CIO Magazine. You know why I read CIO Magazine? CIOs read it. CIOs read CIO Magazine and say, hey, these are the certifications I need to hire. And those are the ones we use, because those are the ones that all of a sudden the hiring managers say, I need this. And the recruiters say, I need this. So you stay focused on what the leaders need, and you're always good. So we follow those trends. Plus, we speak to recruiters and hiring managers every day. So that's where we get our data from. And I've done this research forever. So now you know the cloud security engineer. But again, hands-on techie. Okay. Now, there's cloud big data engineers. And they're basically like data scientists plus cloud engineers. Here's the thing. I've trained some. They were data scientists. They took these big $30,000, $40,000 data science boot camps. They were real smart, highly educated people that were really capable, good at math, good at coding, good at everything. And then they said, hey, wait, I can't get a job. Could you train me to be a cloud engineer? And all those people are qualified to be cloud data engineers, real good ones too, because they've got cloud and data engineering. Now, of course, let's talk about other ways that you could be a better engineer and build your career. So Chris knows all about hotel chains. Now, if Chris gets hired as an engineer working in there, would he be more valuable in the hotel industry than me, who knows nothing about hotel chains other than I check in and stay in them all the time? Of course. He knows how to open them up, close them, run a division. He knows all of that. He's an expert in it. So yeah, he can design something, build something that's going to work. Here I could say, I stayed at a Holiday Inn Express last night. Aren't I capable? And that's the key. So, you know, there's that. So industry experience. Imagine a nurse. They want to do healthcare technology. They know what nurses do. Wow, they're so helpful. Here's why it matters so much. So when I was younger, I was pushing electronic health records, and I was dealing with digital transformation of healthcare. When the customers would say, which EMR should I get or electronic health record, I'd say, that's not the question to ask. We need to map out the workflows for your doctors and nurses. I said, because some of these EMRs are going to work for your workflow, and some of them are going to cause chaos in your division. When I consulted these people, they said, thank you, Mike. They had their nurses and doctors tested, and they went, ooh, we made a mistake. Thank you for saving us from the mistake. Now, you know what else happened? The rest of the hospital said, hey, here's a cool technology. Some salesperson sold it. Designed by some engineer that knew nothing about healthcare. Engineers that knew nothing about healthcare sold the majority of the healthcare solutions that are out there. Did you know when we were on paper records, on people's sloppy handwriting, medical errors were the 5th leading cause of death in the US? We digitized it. We used systems that were designed by non-healthcare professionals. Now medical errors are the 3rd leading cause of death. Oh my God, 5th leading cause of death on paper. Now we digitally transformed them the 3rd leading cause of death. That's horrible. Why is that? Because it was designed by people that don't know the tech. So if I want to design a system for an airline and I've got a cloud engineer that's a pilot, I'm already excited because they know the industry. So all businesses have what's called business solution groups. IBM was the first. Cisco was one of the few. GE was one of the few. And they built solutions group. Microsoft has one. Business experts. And if you're an expert, you can do really great in these careers. And they're kind of the way you can kind of build your cloud engineering career. Lots and lots of ways to do this. But I'll tell you one thing, the thing that gets you promoted is your soft skills, business acumen, your leadership skills, et cetera, et cetera. For the architect and the engineer, that is the secret. And you know how I know this? Because I was an engineer and a real good one. My CCIE number is 7417, back when it was a 2-day exam. Before Cisco had to turn it into a 1-day exam because it was too hard and nobody passed it. And they made it a 1-day exam, and now we have 50 or 60,000 of them. It wasn't good when everybody failed the exam and said, I hate Cisco, so they made it an easy exam. Back when I did it, you took it with 22 people. At the end of the day, there was nobody left. They all failed. And Cisco did it again and again and again. There were 3 million people that attempted it before I started. And my number is 7417. And guess what? They started counting at 1028 because they thought it was cool. It was 2 to the 10th. So there were like 6,000 people of those few million that had started their Ciscos. And that's the point. That's what it takes to be deep. But still, I did that. That's how deep I was. My manager pulls me into a room one day and says, hey, Mike, I want to talk to you. And I said, tell me. And he says, you know, Mike, you're not like the rest of these engineers. So I said, why? Am I not good? Trying on tech, and he's like, no. Your tech skills are good. That's why I want to talk to you. And I'm like, okay. And he says, Mike, do you know the difference between a $150,000 sales engineer, systems engineer like you, and a $300,000 network architect or enterprise architect? And I'm like, tell me. And he says, the impact you make on your customers, which is determined by your business acumen, your relevancy to the CXO, your leadership skills, your sales skills, your presentation skills, your emotional intelligence, etc. Guess what? $250,000 of training later, I had that, and instantly I had that job. I retired early. And for 20 years, I've been teaching those skills because it changes your life as an engineer, architect, programmer. It doesn't matter. So that's how you optimize your build and optimize your career. That's why we train them extensively in our program. I want all my people getting hired. I want them getting paid more. I want them getting promoted. And I want to have a network of people that love them. That's why I do the same thing for my architects and engineers. But that's what it takes. And at this point, I'm sure there's questions. How do I build my career? How do I do this? And I want to help out. I wanted to make sure we outlined these two wonderful, amazing professional careers. They're excellent careers.
Yeah, thank you for laying that out for the different roles for the cloud engineer. There was a couple of things that I wanted to piggyback on that you mentioned, and you started off with it and you closed with it. It's the soft skills, but you also started off talking about the fundamentals, or what I call the fundamentals. You may not have used the word fundamentals.
No, that's exactly what they are.
But that's what they are. So. But I wanted to point out that, engineers, as you said, need to know Linux. Okay. All right. But I'll use our program as an example. And I'll let you talk a little bit about it. We're now 2.5 weeks into our cloud engineering program. And have we done a live class on Linux yet?
Nope.
No.
You know why?
The fundamentals are so important of networking. And I'm just speaking, I have not been to any of these classes except for the first class, but I'm assuming that the classes have covered things like networking, subnetting.
So I'll put it into context. So in the first class,
the basic fundamentals.
The first class, we set up VMware virtual machines, and then we built virtual machines in multiple cloud, explained the virtual machines, the hypervisor architecture, how they work, how they're moved, while they're moved. Yeah. And you know what we did in the second class that week? We taught subnetting. We spent hours on subnetting. The next week, we built containers and did container orchestration and how they work, and then we can configure containers on multiple clouds. And then in the next class, you know what we did? We built a network. We set up some OSPF. We showed how routing works. We showed how to create how to get routes across. We did some static routing, dynamic routing. All the students had a lot of fun. This Sunday, today we covered load balancers, and we talked about how they work, and we set them up on multiple clouds, how to stack them, load balancer architecture. But we didn't just talk, hey, this is an elastic load balancer, here's a target group. We talked about how do you set them up in multiple enterprise environments, and we got deep. And you know what we're going to talk about this week? We're probably going to talk about BGP for a couple of hours on Saturday or Sunday, because until we get the networking done, I don't even want to start on the Linux.
Right.
I don't even want to start on the cloud, because if you don't know the network, you don't know anything, because everything's going to crash and burn and not work. So I have to start at the baseline. For me, and I'm a martial artist, and martial arts has impacted my life. Bruce Lee said it best. I don't fear the man who's learned 10,000 kicks and practiced them one time each. I fear the man that's practiced one kick 10,000 times, because that kick is going to hurt. And that's really the thing. I spent 10,000 hours on just BGP. And people would say, Mike, how's this work? I'm like, I don't know. It's not BGP. And why was that? Because I wanted to focus on BGP and not lose my focus.
Yeah. So and you reminded me of something. So you mentioned that the second class, you guys focused on subnetting, and that is a very, very dense topic, to put it politely. And I know that there was people that did not get subnetting at the end of that class. And you know how I know? Ask me how I know.
They sent you emails and Slack messages and said, I don't know?
No, they sent a message on Slack to the entire channel about the programming that says, I rewatched the class from Sunday and I understand subnetting.
Oh, good.
That's how I know that they understand that they didn't understand subnetting after the first class. But rewatching the same class, because they have that benefit of being able to rewatch all of our classes, the next day they understood subnetting.
Yes, that's true.
I still don't understand subnetting, but that's not for. I haven't tried to understand subnetting, but I found that that was very encouraging to me to see that immediately the next day after they rewatched that they understood subnetting. But you just made me think about that when you mentioned that that subnetting was your second class. And so that,
yeah, and of course we had a leadership class each week because one presenting technology. Why? When somebody asks you and puts you in an interview, I think we did presenting technology. How do they gauge the knowledge? They're going to ask you a question. If you can dazzle them with your answer, then they hire you.
Yep. So I know we've got a couple of questions up here. So I'm going to start putting some of them up.
And I'll take some questions. I've got a good. I scheduled until 8 o'clock, so I got some time.
Oh yeah, definitely. And for anyone who might be wondering where our friend Elonzo is dealing with some, we'll call them technical issues of a personal nature. Unfortunately, he's dealing with another individual who's not being that does not have the best soft skills. So Alonzo will hopefully be joining us, but I wanted to let everybody know. I know we usually have a group of people that join in on the second half of the show, so I wanted to make sure people were aware that Alonzo will be joining us.
Hey, Cindy, you around? My cat must be outside. She brought me a rabbit this morning. I was not very happy. So a baby rabbit. It was so beautiful. I was so not happy. But if my cat Cindy would come, she's always entertaining.
Yeah. But before we get to the questions, Mike did this earlier, but I'm going to take the opportunity to talk about it now. Make sure to register for a chance to take part in the next mock interview session with Mike, which will be next Wednesday, a week from tomorrow. And if you've ever wanted to take part in a mock interview or see if you have what it takes to get hired, this is your opportunity. We usually select anywhere from 8 to 10 or 12 people to take part in this. So make sure to register. Click the link in the description. And I think Chow just put it in the chat box. Yep, Chow just put it in the chat box. So make sure to do that. And even if you don't get selected, make sure to join and watch this. It's going to be live on YouTube. So you get to see how someone should handle an actual interview. And although it's going to be a mock interview, Mike's not going to go easy. He'll be soft and cuddly, but the questions will be they will be interview questions that you will actually get asked on an interview. So make sure to register for that. If you don't register, you don't get the chance to try. And if you don't get the chance to try, you won't get hired. And if you don't get hired, well, why are we here? But that's I took that from the commercial that Mike always likes to talk about from DirecTV or Dish Network. If you remember, you always use that example about if you do this, this is going to happen. This is going to happen. I tried to do the backwards. But also, in addition to that, make sure you register for our Azure Bootcamp. We asked you guys to vote, and Azure won big time. So Azure is going to be happening in June. I'll let Mike talk a minute about that because I know he's really excited about that.
I am excited. So we always give you the things that you need to know most. It looked like AWS was going to be the dominant cloud, and that's why we always teach multiple clouds. And because you can't just know one job in one cloud and think you're going to work on the cloud. But it looks like Azure is going to be the dominant provider now. Right now, Azure has the most revenue coming in, and Azure has made some very good strategic business decisions very quickly. And it looks to me like Azure is going to be the dominant provider in about 1 to 2 years. So we obviously give our students access to the Certified Solution Architect Professional and the Azure Solution Architect Expert in our course. But I feel Azure is a very important cloud to learn right now. There were a couple of major incidents that occurred last year, and several providers handled them very differently. Azure handled things in such a classy way with such a degree of transparency and professionalism that a lot of people have flocked to that provider. Another cloud provider had some outages and things, and they gave answers that did not satisfy the industry. They gave answers that almost seemed infeasible, if not impossible, and it scared a lot of people. So it used to be that a percentage of people were going to be multi-cloud. 97% of customers asked want to be multi-cloud, and 87% already are. So Azure is really important. Now, here's the thing. You should learn that cloud, not any cloud provider, and that's what we teach the architects. But certifications do help you get an interview. They don't get you hired, but they help you get an interview. And we want to help you get that interview. And that's what we're teaching the Azure Solutions Architect Expert Corp, completely free. And guess what? We'll do more than talk about a name of a service and how it works. You can actually learn it too. We're not going to do that name of a service, how to do it, power plant slides with audio. I don't feel anybody should be subjected to that. We'll give you a quality program and it'll be free. So please register.
And did we mention free? While other people are charging for these types of trainings, we're here doing it for free for the community. So
and there's a thing that popped in there. Certification forces you to learn all the wrong things that will not help your career.
Yes.
So certification forces you to learn all the wrong things as a rule. And if you learn all the wrong things, you're never going to have a good career. Now, I'm going to tell you one thing. I'm going to tell you the biggest career mistake I've seen in 25 years. And I'm also going to tell you that this career mistake is so common and so major that it keeps them getting hired and it keeps their salaries low. And that's why you see some cloud architect earning $400,000 a year and the super genius techie that played their career wrong, that's not learning anything, even earning anything or even employable. Here's why. Most people try to be a jack of all trades. I'm going to learn SysOps, DevOps, Alexa, big data, cloud developer. And you know what they know in the end? Nothing. Because if you try and spread yourself too thin, what you know is nothing. Nothing. A doctor goes to school for a long time for one thing. Why not everything? Because they need to know something. A cardiologist goes to school, 4 years undergraduate, 4 years medical school, 3-year residency, and many do a 3 to 5 year fellowship. It can be up to 17 years to work on the heart. Hey, wait, you think they cover the whole heart? No. They cover 1/10 of the heart. Because there's an electrophysiological cardiologist. There's a medical cardiologist. There's an interventional cardiologist. I could go on and go on and go on. And I'm telling you this, when people get 1 million certifications and learn about a whole bunch of irrelevant things, you got an architect earning $500,000 a year and that engineer that's still earning $90,000 a year working on their 50th certification. So be good at your career. Do not learn somebody else's career. Be good at your career.
Yep. So let me bring in some of these questions. There's one that normally I go from the top down, but this one I want to bring up now, and then I'll go back to the top. So Ty asks, I am enrolled in the architect class. Do I need the cloud engineer course? Should I be doing the engineer course before the architect course?
Ty Penn, if you're in our cloud architect course, we are thrilled because we'll train you to become a cloud architect. A cloud architect is one career. A cloud engineer is a different career. So for example, if I wanted to be an airplane pilot, I would not learn how to be a flight attendant. I would learn how to be an airplane pilot. When I wanted to practice medicine, I learned medicine. I didn't go to law school. So no, you don't need to take the cloud engineer course. Today, one of my students in class, Jordan, announced that he just got hired by AWS. He's never worked in tech in his entire life. He just graduated from college, or he's graduating in the end of the month. He just graduated from college, and he's already working as a cloud architect, solution architect. This happens every day. You need to be competent, Ty Penn. You need to have expertise in the network and the data center, an expert business acumen, communication skills, leadership skills, etc. So you need that. I don't want to sell you 2 courses. Why not? Because I want you to be an architect. And training you to be an engineer does not make you an architect. It makes you an engineer. And I believe in training for the career you want versus somebody else's career. So Ty Penn, not that we wouldn't love to sell you stuff, but I don't believe in selling things that are not in my students' best interest or anybody's best interest. So if you want to become a cloud engineer, take the cloud engineer course. If you want to be a cloud architect, you take the cloud architect course. But training for somebody else's career will not help you in your career. And I don't want you to sell you things that are not in your best interest. I want you all hired. I want you all paid more. I want you all promoted. I want you to have the best careers. That's why we do this. We're here free right now. I'm doing it. My wife's, looking at me like I'm cuckoo, but I'm doing it for all you guys. Chris is doing it for all you guys. His wife's waiting for him too. to help build careers, and we will never try and sell you something you don't need. That's not our style. Let the certification providers tell you to take 10 different certifications, waste your time, and a year later, you're still not employed. I want you employed. I want you paid more, and I want you to have the best career ever.
I could be back in my hammock with my hat.
I'm okay with it.
I got
As
my
long as the
hat.
stuff gets done, it doesn't matter to me.
But apparently when I get in the hammock, I disappear. So, that's what. So, all right, let me bring in this next one from Royce. He says, isn't the blockchain the next step, quote unquote, in cloud architecture?
Actually, it's quite the opposite. So here's what blockchain generally is. So the whole world has all the world's money supply in a couple of banks or a couple of ledgers. And blockchain basically said, we don't want all the world's money supply in a couple people's centralized locations. We want it to be distributed across the world, across other people's. So Hoist, I'm assuming that's your name. Hoist, blockchain is kind of the exact opposite of the cloud. Now, there are a few blockchains like Ripple, which basically is a few of the world's billionaires that decided to say, hey, wait, the world's going distributed, and we're going to try and steal all the money ourselves and keep it in our bank called Ripple. And it's a bank-managed, billionaire-managed cryptocurrency to try and get the world's money supply. But look at it this way. Bitcoin's $33,000 or $30,000. Ripple is less than 50 cents. There's a reason for it. Blockchain is distributed, not generally centralized. Yes, there are some centralized things. There are. But no. Blockchain is exactly, generally speaking, the opposite of cloud. And there is some cloud-based blockchain, but it's not true blockchain, and it's not the majority of it. So no, not even all. It's not even close. And it's very different technology used for very different things. Blockchain would be used for payments. It would be used for managing transactions, provide non-repudiation to see where things are. So totally different technology, and one can't replace the other.
All right. So
Question though.
Yeah, let's see. So Marcus says there's no way that many cloud engineers know all that stuff and be great.
Well, Marcus, the key is you have to know that stuff to be hired. And, the reality is, in my career, I did 5,000 interviews. And let me tell you, this is before recently, in the 5,000 people that I interviewed, I hired 10 people. Now, here's the thing. It's so rare to find somebody that's good. I hired 3 people that literally knew nothing about tech. Why did I hire them? Because they're the right people. In fact, Marcus, it's so hard to find somebody that I hire people that don't have a tech background all the time. Because I'm looking for the person with the right attitude, the right energy, the right enthusiasm, and I will train them and they will know this. Every student that I have my Cloud Engineer Career Development Program that will learn this by the end, and they're all going to be great at it. And here's why. Every one of my students get hired, all of them. If they come to class and they do the work, and they get hired in the end. Now, I can't get somebody hired that doesn't show up, doesn't do the work, and doesn't come to class, and doesn't participate in class. But everybody needs to know that, Marcus. That is the minimum level of skill. That's why we teach it. But also, Marcus, that's why every day one of our students gets hired, because these are all those critical skills you need to have. That's why we teach them. That's why we don't say, here, get certified. I saw some crazy person charging $9.99 for a cloud practitioner boot camp. We tell everybody don't even do the cloud practitioner, and we do our AWS boot camps completely free for better certifications, because we know that nobody's going to get hired with the cloud practitioner, so we don't want people to waste their time on it. So the key is, that's what it takes to be great. And that's what it takes to get hired. And we'd love to train you or train on your own, but you have to know this. If you don't know this, you just can't do the job. And the employers will sense it and they won't hire you. And then what happens is people go on an interview. And then it's like, let me learn a different set of skills. Let me learn these SysOps skills, DevOps skills from other careers. And guess what? They're even further away from your job. And then you're even less likely to get hired. So master these things, you'll be good to go. It's not an easy career. That's why it's paid a lot. And I need to make this clear. I'm sorry the certification providers have said, here, take this certification, you're going to get a job. We spent over 500 hours training our people. You have to realize this. A doctor earns $200,000 a year. A good cloud architect earns $400,000 a year. The doctor went to school and spent $250,000 on education, and at minimum has 7 years of education. I've trained cloud architects that have gotten $300,000 jobs in a year. Now, granted, that one had tech background, but that's what it takes. So it's so fast. I'm getting people $150,000 jobs that have never worked in tech in 10 months for less than $1,000. But you have to know it. Just because we don't charge the $50,000 that the course is worth, You have to know this. You have to have that professional body of knowledge. That's what it takes to get these jobs. These are big jobs. Big jobs that pay well have big expectations of your knowledge base. And that's why it takes us 500 hours. And our AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional Training and our Azure Solution Architect Professional Training, which everybody gets, maybe that's 30 hours over 500. Because that's how much more people need to know. And you can do it, Marcus. I know you can. I'm sure you can. You know how I know? I've seen so many people do it over the years, and I've worked with them. You can do it too. Learn these things, get yourself cloud hardening. You're going to be great. As my SEAL buddies say, you can always do 20 times more than you think you can.
All right. So here's our next question. So it's a two-parter. So this person has ACA and Alibaba Cloud.
I don't know what ACA means, but it could be an associate cloud architect. How can you practice in cloud computing? Well, Nasser, how do you practice in cloud computing? Well, what kind of career do you want, Nasser? Tell me, if I know which career you want, I could give you more guidance because it would be different practice. Because the practice that an architect would do is extraordinarily different than what a cloud admin do, which is different than a cloud engineer. So cloud computing could have 10,000 different jobs. So Nasser, if you can tell me the job that you're interested in, then I can tell you what to practice. But you haven't mentioned what you're interested in. All you told me is a certification, and I'm not even sure I understand the certification. I'm guessing that it's associate cloud architect, but please tell us what career, and then I can tell you exact meaning: cloud architect, network architect, cloud network engineer, cloud data engineer, et cetera, cloud developer, cloud IAM architect. There's just so many jobs. Every job that existed outside the cloud still exists inside the cloud.
All right, so our next question is from Prashanth. I think I pronounced that correctly. Is there an opportunity out there to join as an architect full-time with the company as traveling is a constraint to me, and I realize traveling is key to the role?
Well, it depends on what we want your career to be. As a rule, as an architect, you're going to travel, and you're going to travel a fair amount. Now, can you reduce the travel? Sure. If you live in London or New York, yeah, you can reduce your travel. Or Dubai, here's why. There's a lot of business in these big cities. So if you're in New York City, you might get away with being able to be in New York City 90% of the time. And then, like, let's say you've got a global bank and they're your customer. You may have to go to Hong Kong once during the year, or for a global meeting. But for the most part, when I worked in New York as an architect, I didn't travel that much. And here's the reason. There were so many big businesses in New York that I can consult to. It was no big deal. Now, I live near Palm Beach County, Florida. There's no industry in Florida whatsoever. The only people that would even need a cloud architect would be Disney, and they're too small to need a cloud architect for real anyway. And maybe Hertz. There's nothing here. So there's no, if I want to live in Florida as a cloud architect, I'm traveling 300,000 miles a year. And I did. I'd leave my house in Palm Beach. I'd go to San Jose. I'd go straight to London. I'd go straight to Dubai. I'd go to Australia. I'd go to Hong Kong, go back to Dubai. That was life. So it depends what kind of architect you are. Now, if you're a senior architect, you're going to be traveling a lot more. Could you be an enterprise architect inside of a company and not travel? Yeah. Could you be a post-sales cloud architect? Yes, you could, and not travel. So most of us architects design, present, and sell. But there are some companies that are so big, they hire their own architects to design their own solutions. They don't configure them, they design them. So the kind of company that would do this would be a Bank of America, a General Electric, a Cisco, all the big companies you want to work for in the first place, a Goldman Sachs. And then you could work there and almost never travel. So it's possible, but you'd have to be post-sales versus pre-sales or live in a major city. And it's a good question, and it's a viable question as well.
And sorry I didn't mute myself there.
That's okay.
I'm sure everybody heard all my Slack notifications. That's what it's like being in cloud, Go Cloud Careers.
Silicon Valley, I'm not going to say that's going to preclude you from traveling, though, because, that's where the headquarters is. But, most of your customers aren't going to be there. So, San Jose is not the biggest place where you're going to do most of your work.
All right. So our next question is from Maddox. Which should I go for first? CISSP, CISM, GICSP.
Maddox, what career would you like? What's your goal? See, the thing is, certifications don't drive your career. You drive your career, and then you get the certifications to establish the credibility for your career. So I don't know what you'd like to do. Tell me what you'd like to do, and I'll have an answer for you. As a rule, for the most part, unless I was the manager, I'd only do the CISSP. I would probably skip the GISP because I see no point in it, and I might consider the CISM for the right position, but I don't know what the career is. And that's always the most important thing. It's kind of like, which airplane do I get on? I don't know. Do you want to go to Palm Beach? Do you want to go to New York? Do you want to go to San Jose? So let me know, and I'd love to help. Okay, James, here's two things. One is, what is the career that you desire? And two is, I'm going to tell you right now, there's no such thing as learning one cloud provider if you want to build a career.
So the question is, do you think it's better to focus on one cloud provider or learn to do standard DevOps tasks on multiple platforms?
But I don't know what the career is. Is the person a DevOps engineer? In which case, most of what I would tell them to do is learn off the cloud and then just add the cloud stuff. Or is it someone that wants to be a cloud architect? If they want to be a cloud architect, they need to understand cloud. Truthfully, to be a cloud engineer, they need to understand cloud, and one cloud provider is not enough. So it's really dependent upon the career the person wants, and I still need to know the career. So always figure out what your career is, because it's kind of like this. If you wanted to be an airplane pilot, you'd figure out what you need to know to do.
All right. So hopefully James or who is it? Maddox will give us some further answers. So Mike, Al had some comments earlier about you giving the truth, and subnetting takes practice.
Yeah, I was actually retired at 34 for that reason. And yes, I'm blunt and truthful beyond belief. People that know me know exactly how truthful. And here's the reason why. It takes information to make the correct decisions. And I don't want to sugarcoat the information. I want everybody to get their best jobs and build their best life. Taipan, I remember when you asked that question. Yes, it is like Kung Fu. You know, I've done 25 years of martial arts. Here's the thing. I use a straight punch. We're more palm heel strike because I don't punch. I use a cross or some version. I use an elbow strike, an up elbow, a hammer fist, an elbow. You know, that's it. And knee strike. And yes, because the thing, I don't use fancy stuff. And here's why. The most effective stuff that I've mastered is the most effective stuff.
So here is James.
Okay, James Freeman, good question. So you're interested in DevOps. So James, I'm assuming you're already a software developer. Because to be a good DevOps engineer, you should be a software engineer first. So assuming you are a software engineer, and the reason I'm saying this is, again, this is a situation where certification providers that say, here, take a DevOps cert and you're going to get a job. And of course, no, this is a professional career. It's not going to be done that way. So assuming you're a software developer, the first thing I would do is learn the tools. Off the cloud first. Jenkins, Spinnaker, Git, all that stuff. All the traditional tools. You know why? You can use them in all clouds and all data centers. And then I'd learn the basic AWS tools, you know, their tools, and I'd learn the basic Google tools. But start first with DevOps. Become a great DevOps engineer. Master DevOps. Because here's the thing. It's no different on the cloud. It's like the network architect. I had a student, Joe Millen. He is a CCIE like me. He took my program, and 3 weeks into the program, AWS hired him as a senior cloud architect. Why did they hire a network architect as a senior cloud architect? In 3 weeks of my program, because he knew so much networking and data center concept that it was like, oh, we just polished him up. Okay, shined him up. AWS took one look at him and said, oh my God, he's incredible. So the key is master your stuff off of the cloud first. First. Become a guru, become an expert, truly master it, then bring it to the cloud, learn the basic cloud things, and then you're going to be good. But don't try and learn on the cloud and expect to build a career. It's the other way around. And I got it when I said software developer. You said, yes, sir. So James, you are in good standing. You're going to do fantastic and as a DevOps engineer.
All right. I think we just went over this. I'm just there's so many I get kind of. We just went over it, just asked a different way, correct?
Yeah. So
Okay.
no, actually, no.
Okay.
So
All right. Gotcha.
when I get a question that says, "What's the best career path for a previous software developer?" I don't like that question. I used to practice internal medicine. If someone said, "Hey, Mike, what's the best career?" they'd say, managing medicine. And I decided I wanted to be a network engineer. So guess what? 6 months later, I was. Now, of course, they wanted 10 years of experience, which I had none. Because every job description wants 10 years experience, 3 Olympic gold medals, to be hand photos of you with the president for an entry-level position. And I never got an entry-level position. I went on a network engineer interview and got hired as a senior network engineer. So you can do whatever you want, James. You want to be an architect, be an architect. You want to be a software developer, want to be a development engineer, great. You can do what you like. Just find out what you like and build the chart the right course to get there. And DevOps is a fantastic career transition for a software developer. I'm just saying you can do anything you want.
All right. So I had a feeling that we would get to these questions. So give me just a second.
We can address the experience one that's over there.
Yeah.
Because that's such a misnomer.
There's a couple that I want to get to before I get to the one I just saw, because the one I just saw is going to lead us down a whole rabbit hole that I need to carve out some time for. So where's this? I saw the experience one from Kennedy, correct? Is that?
I just saw one.
Yeah, this one I believe. Kennedy says, I often see the most cloud architect job descriptions always insist on several years of experience and are from more senior professionals. How can people entering into IT with experience get a job? Yeah, they want 25 years of Kubernetes experience.
Exactly. I've seen 25 years of Kubernetes experience. How many years old is Kubernetes? Not 25 years old. So, Kennedy, I view job descriptions as a joke. I'm literally not assuming it. I view it as a joke. And I'll tell you, Kennedy, after speaking to thousands of hiring managers and recruiters over the years and getting people hired every day with no experience, including me, here's what I'll tell you. Hiring managers do not care about experience. Hiring managers care about technical competency. Technical competency. Can you do the job? And I love to use this example. I actually have a student that's joining me this summer. He's 10 years old, and he's one of the most impressive people I've ever seen. But that's neither here nor there. Who would you hire? An 8-year-old girl with these cute little pigtails at the top of her head that broke into the Pentagon, MI5 and MI6 in England, and the Israeli Mossad. This girl is so good at 8 years old, she broke in. She's got zero experience whatsoever. Now, of course, the Israeli Mossad has hundreds of people with 30 years security experience. And the CIA and MI5 and MI6, they all have these experts. But the 8-year-old girl beat us. Who do I hire? I hire the 8-year-old, and I fire all those people with 30 years experience because they're not competent. They were beaten by an 8-year-old. So I don't care about experience. Experience is irrelevant. I've met doctors that were doctors with 50 years experience that were killing people, not curing people when they started, and 50 years later are still killing people every day. They're more of an assassin than a doctor. And I've seen somebody fresh out of school and even in school that was capable of incredible healing. So employers want the following, Kennedy. They want someone that can do the job. They want someone they can trust. They want someone that knows what they know and knows what they don't know so they don't make mistakes. They want someone that's energetic, enthusiastic, and passionate. They also want someone that's willing to raise the energy and bring out the best in others, raise the energy of the room, someone that's a team player, and someone that's willing to go above and beyond. It is impossible to find somebody good. Almost impossible. And for those reasons, we get people jobs all the time. Now, Kennedy, the first job I went for was a senior network engineer. They wanted over 10 years experience. And you know what everybody told me? Mike, you got to start at this help desk thing. And I said, no way. You got to be a network admin and configure stuff. I said, no way, I'm going to be a network engineer. And I interviewed with this guy named Devendra. It was really amazing. He asked me a question, I answered it. He asked me another question, I answered it. He asked me a soft skills question, I answered it. And you know what, Kennedy? He asked me a question, and I had no idea what it was. You know what I said to him? I said, Devendra, I'm sorry I've not had the opportunity to learn that technology yet. I said, as a matter of fact, It's Monday at 11:30 a.m. This is my first tech interview, and I love tech, and I'm so excited to be here. Last Friday at 6:30 p.m., I was doing rounds of my patients in the hospital, and this is my first tech interview ever. And I'm highly energetic, highly motivated, and I absolutely love technology, but I've not had the chance to learn this, and I wanted to be fair and honest with you. But I know a lot about BGP, OSPF, and PIM sparse mode. You know what Kennedy, he said to me? Devendra sticks out his hand, and he says, I'm going to hire you. And I looked at him like he had 4 heads. And he said, but I do have a problem with you being a network engineer and the salary you requested. And I went, okay, I guess he's going to try and force me to be a network admin, and maybe I got to bite the bullet, but I don't really want to do this. Maybe I'll go back to practicing medicine. And Devendra then says, I'm going to hire you as a senior network engineer, and you didn't ask for enough money. And I looked at him really head, 2 heads, and he said, Mike, you just told me that you've never worked in tech or even interviewed in tech. You just told me this is your first tech interview, and you know more than 2/3 of my staff, and you've never touched the tech. What's going to happen in 6 months? Well, 6 months later, I was the lead architect, no experience whatsoever, hired as a senior network engineer. And yes, when I was done that interview, I called the recruiter and said, Drago, I went on a job interview, and they hired me. And Drago said, they didn't hire you. He said, WorldCom does 10 to 15 interviews. They didn't hire you. I said, they made me an offer. I said, and Devendra said I didn't ask for enough money. The recruiter started laughing at me, and he hung up the phone on me. I heard it slam down. And I said, and 10 minutes later, he calls me up, and he says, Mike, I'm really sorry. You've made history. You got hired for a better position for more money than you asked for. I've never heard of it. What'd you do? I said, I don't know. I locked myself in a room and mastered what I did. I was honest, open, and ethical, and I communicated well to him. He said he loved you. He said you communicated well, you sold yourself, and you could communicate, and he could trust you. So Kennedy, every day I got a student that gets hired. Today it was Patrick. Who was Chris can tell you the people in the beginning. Chris, how many these things do you have to do this week? How many cloud hired interviews do you got to hire from people that have never worked in tech in their life?
I need to hire another person. Let me put it that way.
To do the videos, just to do our testimonial
just to
videos.
do the videos. I can't. It's like I can't do
But
it.
why are we doing this? You got to remember, we're training the architect. This is not a learn-on-the-job program. We're training the architect. We're training them in the network and the data center. They're so good. They're so smart. And we're training soft skills, emotional intelligence, leadership skills, interview skills, salary negotiations. Well, why are we doing this? Well, here's the thing. If you meet someone that's just so good, that's so likable and lovable, then they forget about the things that you don't have. And that's why we don't go apply for jobs. That's why we use recruiters to go straight to the hiring manager. That's why we've got a whole process of LinkedIn work and resume work to get the people to come to this. Our average student gets 10 to 15 job requests per day while they're in training. It's the right training, the right branding, the right messaging. If somebody looks like a cloud engineer, they don't get cloud architect jobs. If somebody looks like a cloud architect, they don't get cloud engineer jobs. And that's really what it's about. It's about perfectly giving you all the right skills, all the right branding, and making sure that the employer sees you as the role that you're in as opposed to somebody else. That's the biggest part of it. But it's a great question, Kennedy. And my first job, they wanted 10 years experience. 6 months later, I took a job they wanted 15 years experience. And, well, I didn't have any of it.
So I'm going to bring up a couple of comments that Moises brought up. I just want you to address not the specificity of it, but just the idea of it. And then there's a really good one that I want to get to after this. There's 2 comments back to back. So they say, wow, going for the GCP architect through a cloud guru, I did the engineer portion as recommended. I quit my job and lived off my savings, and you're telling me I wasted time and money.
Well, Moses, if you get hired, you didn't waste your time or money. Have you been hired? And if the answer is that you've been hired, it's not been a waste of your money, but I will tell you these certification companies are the reason, I'm not going to mention any names, that I came out of retirement. When I saw what these certification companies were doing, there was this kid, Nathan, he was my friend, Nathan Vons, or his father was my friend, and we wrote a book on passing the AWS Certified Solution Architect Professional. We stripped out 10 pages and gave that book away for free, and we started doing free certification training. And the reason we did it is we didn't want anybody to spend their money on training like that. We wanted to basically give all that stuff away for free so that people knew they could have it for free and actually learn something more than that would be taught there. Because here's the thing, learn by doing. Cloud architects don't do, they design. We don't configure. So all that learn by doing is irrelevant. It's the wrong skills.
And I want to piggyback on that. It's a matter of perspective for you as an individual. If you choose to look at it as a waste of time or a waste of resources or a waste of anything, then yes, it is a waste. But you can choose to look at it as, okay, I've gotten at least some of this knowledge. Now let me go and take this little piece that I've got. Let me take this brick that I've gotten and build a house out of it.
Yes. And realistically speaking, that's probably 10% of what you need.
Yep.
So it's just filling the other 90%, but you did learn something. And when you learn how the stuff works, you're going to get a lot more fast, and it's going to come to you easier. So nothing's ever wasted.
Right. So
I've had data scientists that took data science course that came to me, spent a lot of money. Guess what? They both have jobs, and they're both being well paid. So was it wasted they took a data science thing? I don't know. I wouldn't have found them otherwise.
Yep. I don't want to get on my everything happens for a reason thing, but I mean, it's all a matter of perspective. You take whatever happens to you, the outcome is determined by your perspective and how you utilize that. So the one that I really wanted to get into, and I'm going to put Mike Big up on the screen again, is this one from David, because I had a feeling we were going to get into this. What is the difference between a cloud network engineer and a cloud network architect?
Okay, so let's go through this. A cloud network architect designs, presents, and sells. We don't touch the tech ever. We ask the customer about their business requirements, what they're trying to achieve. We then baseline their current systems, and we create a design. We present that design to the customer. We sell that design to the customer. Now, if the customer wants a proof of concept, what do? We find a bunch of cloud network engineers to go do the proof of concept, and we lead the proof of concept. Then when the customer buys it, we're gone. We never touch the tech. So the cloud network engineer is the person that builds it. So they're the person that configures the BGP, configures the OSPF, configures the route summarization, aggregation, configures the NAT, configures the private lines, configures the VPLS tunnels, your RSVP signaling, MPLS, and et cetera, whatever you're using, configures your software-defined networking, et cetera. The cloud engineer is a builder. So here's the thing, architect, designer, engineer, builder. Just like I talked about the building architect that makes pretty blueprints, the cloud engineer is the construction crew. When you go to an architect to design your building, they make blueprints. They tell you it's going to be 42 feet tall, 68 feet wide. You're going to have a lush garden and a waterfall. But they don't build the waterfall. They design the pretty picture. They hire a construction crew. We architects design their pretty pictures. We design it, present it, and sell it, and then we're gone. And the cloud engineers build it for us. The cloud network engineers build it. So there you go. A designer versus a builder.
And the same thing can be said for a security architect versus a security engineer.
A network architect versus a network engineer, a construction worker versus a building architect. All of these jobs. We've got a doctor that designs the treatment plan and a nurse that carries it out. We got a pilot that flies the plane and the flight attendants that make sure the people in the back don't die. They don't fall out of their seats. They have their seatbelts on. That if somebody's having a heart attack, they address the medical need. They're critical people for safety, but it's a different job.
So I see a comment here. I don't know if it's so much a question as just a comment from Dizzy Willow. They say that they have no tech experience or prior service. They have been a mechanic most of their life, and they find the cloud architect career to be very interesting. And they enjoy understanding how things work and how to fix them.
Oh, Dizzy Willow. Wow, this is a conversation I was having all week. See, my brother is a mechanic, and he's fantastic. And when he was visiting me, his friend Richie came over, and he's also a mechanic. And while they were here, I had a sauna built, and they put it together, snapped it together, wired it. It was really beautiful. I don't know how to use a screwdriver. I'm an architect in every way. I don't know how to use a hammer, and now one day Chris is in my house, and I'm like, "Do you know how to use a screwdriver?" And he says, "I grew up in Mississippi." Yes, but I wouldn't even know what to do with the hammer if you put it in front of me. I'm an architect in every way, but I'm really good at drawing pictures. So, there's that. So, Dizzy Will, being a mechanic is great. You know what you got to deal with being a mechanic? Most likely, miserable, cranky people that are unhappy about their car, and you had to make them happy. Being a mechanic is not just about turning a wrench. There's some knowledge there. In order to go fix a car, especially if it's a complicated car, you got to learn how does the car work? What systems are plugged into other systems? There's carryover from that career. And I was saying the same thing with my brother that I was saying, please take my course. Then, for that reason. So there's that. Now, obviously, my brother would have been given the course, but I still wanted to take a course because he'd be so great at it. So, as a mechanic, that's great. But, I like to say this, your past doesn't define your future. If you've been a mechanic, I think it's a great thing. It's an honorable career. Guess what? That doesn't stop you from being a cloud architect. I'm going to tell you this, Dizzy Will. When you don't have a tech background like I didn't when I went into tech, it's going to be harder. There's going to be more to learn. But let me tell you, you're going to do great if you want it. So you can do anything. I went from practicing medicine to working as a network architect within 6 months, and you can do it too. The key is you got to really, 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 really work on it. Work on it. Put as much time, effort, and passion as you can. Put your heart, your mind, and line it. And then, Dizzy Will, focus on the most elemental basics, those critical fundamentals. And here's why. Nobody gets hired without the fundamentals. But if you have the fundamentals, you're always going to get hired. The other stuff is nice to have. Do you know what we find, Dizzy Will, when we interview people? People that have a whole bunch of nice to haves and no knowledge of the meat, no knowledge of the core stuff. You focus on those core things and learn how to design, present, and sell, and you can be a great architect. So I will never tell anybody they can't do it because everybody can do it. I've got bodyguards that got hired as cloud architects. I'm not joking. We can all do it. I'm from medicine, and I'm a nurse practitioner, internal medicine. I have my own office. So we can all do whatever we want. There's nothing that precludes you to change. I know lawyers that become nurse practitioners at 50 years old. I have a buddy that was a lawyer that just became a doctor. It's 70 years old because he wanted to. And he's going to spend his retirement practicing medicine. But who cares? He likes it. He's loving it. So the point is, do what you like. Do what you love. Mark Twain said, if you make your vacation your vocation, you'll never work a day in your life. And you know what, Dizzy Will? I'm going to tell you this. I used to work hard in healthcare. I worked real hard. Seeing my patients, by the end of the day, I needed like 3 showers. I would change shirts every couple of hours because I would sweat so much. It was such a hard job. I'd go home. I couldn't even sleep at night because I was worried about all that's going on with my patients. And I said, I don't like this. I like tech. I went into tech. Now, I locked myself in a room like for 6 months straight. It wasn't plenty, but I did it. And you know what? 6 months later, I had a great tech job. And you know what? I've never worked a day in my life since I started that tech career. I've loved every minute of it. I'm here doing it for free just because I want to give you guys advice to build the best tech career because I love it so much. That's how much I love it. But I did not love medicine that much. Now, my wife, she's fantastic in medicine. But, for me, I was good at it, but I didn't love it. We only live once. Love what you do.
All right. Sorry, I keep stepping up every few minutes. They've got new motion sensor
lights,
and so the way that the motion sensor detector is on the other side of my partition, and so it thinks I'm not here, so I get put in the dark every 30 minutes. So, all right. So
I see somebody in the back end typing a keyboard. I hope he's here soon.
Do what now?
I see somebody saying Cabana Chris in StreamYard's chat box. I think we might have somebody.
I wasn't sure if you could see him.
We may have my virtual brother as opposed to my actual brother that was here, but in either case, I want him here.
Yeah, so we'll bring him in, but I got a follow up for you, and then I'll let you talk to Elonzo. But I'll bring Elonzo in.
Bring him in, Elonzo. How are you? Welcome.
Hey guys. Elonzo. Sorry for the acoustics, but yeah, I moved, so I've been running around all day long trying to catch up with the future owners and all that other good stuff. So it was a trying experience. I'll have to fill you all in on it. It was crazy. But I am happy to be here. I hope everybody's well. I hope you've all had a great time. In my absence, I hate I missed everyone. But better late than never. So I am happy. If there are any questions that I can ask at the 11th hour and 59th minute.
Welcome, Elonzo. And Elonzo was in the process of moving. Now, I want to make him my neighbor in Florida. That's my biggest goal right now. Like next door. So I can put my physical brother on one side of me, Elonzo, my virtual brother, on the other side, and we can all basically do the same hobbies all day, all the time. Because
real cloud community.
Yeah. So
yeah, you really across the street. But I think Chris is really happy in St. Petersburg.
Yes,
and likes that side.
I am. I just got a house. Can't leave.
And I know Chris is from the Midwest, so he's not really going to fit into the New York culture over here. So, you know.
Wait. Time out. Did you just say that I'm from the Midwest?
Yeah. Aren't you from like Mississippi? Like the center of the country somewhere? Or some other M state?
Yeah. Mississippi's like down here. Mississippi's on the Gulf of Mexico.
You know, it's really funny. So I used to travel 300,000 miles a year for work. London, Dubai, New York, San Francisco.
So everything seems like it's all
Houston, Dallas, Chicago, Cleveland, and I've never been to anything else. Kansas City, and I've never been to anything else in the center of the country.
Yeah. Oh, so we're flyover country to you. Okay, I got it.
Exactly. So I've never been there. So, you know, when I watch Ozarks, I ask you if that's from where you're from too.
Missouri, Mississippi. Okay, all right. I can get the Missouri and the Mississippi. I guess I can get the Midwest and Mississippi. That's a stretch.
When I talk about being a specialist now, does everybody see where I'm coming from? Alonzo and I had originally from the one day, and I'm telling him what's in the header of the message, and he's looking at me like I got 4 heads. But if you ask me how to use a tool or where something has it's outside of my specialty, forget it. I have no idea.
All right. So Moises has a follow-up to his comment about, if you remember, they were the individual talking about buying the other program and wasting their time and energy. So here we go. So, wrong person. There we go.
Well, Moses, here's the thing. Architecture is about understanding of the network and the data center, so you know how to design the system. So, since that's not part of learning how to configure or learning by doing, my suggestion would be twofold. I'm going to give you the free fold, and I'm going to give you the fast fold. The fast way to do it would be to do our program. But if you're not going to do ours, I'm going to tell you the free way to do it. I would go to Cisco, and I would buy these 4 books. Internet Routing Architectures from Bassam Halabi, Routing TCP/IP Volumes 1 and 2 from Jeff Doyle, and Routing and Stevens TCP/IP. Now it's going to be about 8,000 pages or so. It's going to cost you about $250, and that will give you your networking fundamentals for real. Then, where else you can get the knowledge to do architecture? You need to know about servers and server virtualization. So I'd go to the VMware website, read a few hundred pages, and you're going to get it. Then you're going to need to know about containers and container orchestration. So I'd read the Kubernetes documentation, the Red Hat OpenStack documentation, et cetera, because that's where you're going to learn that. And you can do that again, free. Then you need to learn block storage, object storage, and file storage. And what they cover in something like the Certified Solution Architect Professional, that's not knowledge. You need to know knowledge. So I'd suggest that you go to the Dell EMC website and the IBM website, read a couple hundred pages of storage area network information, and then you're going to learn those types of file storage. So now you need to learn DNS. Guess what? Read the Internet Engineering Task Force, RFC. It's free. And that's the specification. Go to F5 and read about their DNS, and you're going to know. Now you need to know about content delivery networks. Go to Akamai, go to Cloudflare, and read about several content delivery networks, how they work, and learn about the network too, not just the caching servers, which is covered in certification. They all don't even talk about the network because they don't even know the network exists. And the network is the most critical part of the content delivery network. So then, what else do you need to learn? Well, you need to learn security, right? And we're not going to be doing the cloud native security in any real customer. So go to Cisco, Palo Alto, Fortinet, Checkpoint, and read a few thousand pages on firewalls and Read a few thousand pages on IDS, IPS systems, and there you're going to get it. So that will cover your technical pieces, and you're going to be good to go. But nobody gets an architect job without some executive skills. So either take art training or take a presentations class like the Presenting to Win from Jerry Weissman, a couple $1,000s for the week. Speakeasy is another one you could do. Realistically speaking, we built this program because it costs about $50,000 to learn these things, and I wanted to do it for 1 or 2 days pay for the architect. But if you're not with us, get some emotional intelligence training from the Goldman Group. They provide excellent training there. Now, you're also going to need to know how to sell. So unless you've worked in sales, get some sales training. It's out there. It's expensive, but get some sales training. You need to have it. Now, you're going to be giving presentations in front of large audiences. And some of them are going to be executives, and you're going to need to deal with the visual, auditory, kinesthetic people. You're going to also have to learn how to deal with the functional, analytical, and intuitive personality types. You will then need to get some specialized training on CXO relevancy training, how to communicate to the CEO and what they care about versus the CIO versus the CTO. You probably need to take some negotiation training. We provide negotiation training. And those are the skills that it's going to take Moses to get you hired. Now, I've given you the information where you can buy those 4 books for about $250. That soft skills kind of stuff to get hired, realistically speaking, we're talking about $30,000 to $50,000 of training. And that's why I created the Cloud Architect Career Development Program, because I knew people couldn't afford it. And I spent $250,000 in this stuff with the company and my money together to learn it. But you need that, and that's what built my architecture career. And that's why I train this to my students. You've got to get this soft skills training, please. Yeah, because without it, you can't be hired as an architect. So all is not wasted. Just these are the architect things that you need to do, and they're not covered in certification training programs. So make sure you get it somewhere, and you'll be good to go, and you'll get hired. And I look forward to the day you tell me when you're hired.
And Mike, we've had a couple of people ask about the Cisco books that you referenced. I couldn't keep up with it. So
yeah, the book Internet Routing Architectures from Bassam Halabi, if you can still find it, but it's critical and you can still get it. Mandatory information. Routing TCP/IP Volume 1, definitely something somebody needs. Volume 2, I would always is good, but and I recommend, but potentially Volume 1 would be fine. Stevens TCP/IP, totally critical. Those
Gotcha.
just kind of cover the main fundamentals.
And I'm not able to write them down either, but I'm just going to make a time marker for this for people. Okay. What was this? This is about approximately the 2-hour mark. Okay. Because all of our things are available on YouTube. Live streams are available for review whenever you want to.
Absolutely.
Q&A sessions are available for review on YouTube. Web shows are available for review. Workshops are available for review. Previous interview sessions are available for review. Previous boot camps are available for review. Anything and everything that we do is available for viewing on our YouTube channel.
And that's why, except for our How to Get Your First Job webinars, which are private on Zoom, we do all this stuff publicly for this reason, so you can go back and watch it again and again and again.
All right, so let's see here. There was another question that I wanted to get to. So Onward asked, do cloud architects usually architect cloud environments in different industries, e.g. healthcare, retail, etc.? If not, when and how does a cloud architect decide the industry they want to focus on? I know you could talk forever about this, but let's keep it. Let's keep it.
For the average cloud architect,
10 minutes. I'm just kidding.
For the average cloud architect, they're going to work in an environment where they're going to work across customers in general. But if they go to a cloud provider themselves, they're going to put them in an industry. It might be generic, it might be healthcare, it might be transitions, it might be migration. So generally speaking, you're going to get pigeonholed into some area where you're going to do a very small subset of all the whole things, and you're going to learn your job and nobody else's. So that's kind of like that. So generally speaking, they're generic initially. Now, if you decide an industry that you're interested in, find your way there, but you got to become good at that industry. So think about it this way. Chris is an expert in the hospitality industry, and I mean a real expert. And that's why I referenced him. Elonzo's been in marketing for what, 20 years? So if I was going to do a marketing design, I'd probably ask Elonzo. He's an international marketing specialist. He's an expert. I practice medicine as a nurse practitioner, was a nurse, so I know healthcare. But, there's that. Now, if I've got a mechanic that wants to become a cloud architect, wow, a mechanic that focuses on the auto industry or the transport industry, that's somebody special. But as a rule, if Elonzo says, hey, I'm interested in medicine, I'd say, yeah, Elonzo, that's great. But, are you a medical professional? And no matter how hard I would try to make Elonzo a good healthcare person, he'd never be capable like a person that was a licensed medical professional for these jobs. So when we're dealing with specialties, it's better if you have industry expertise. If not, you can learn a lot about industry. I have friends that do it. My buddy Heidi's in healthcare for 20 years, and oh my God, she's not a medical professional, but she should be. I trust her implicitly for anything. I've worked on architectures with her for decades, and she is amazing. But she dedicated her whole life to learning healthcare. So there's that. But how do you decide on what you want to be in? What do you love? What are you great at? That's what you do. Do what you love. Look, I love BGP. I found a way to do a role where I did nothing other than BGP. I had another job where all I needed to do was following. All I did was do pimp sparse mode. And you know what? That's all I felt like doing. So what do I do? Pimp sparse mode, because I found IP video interesting 20 years ago. Point is, you pick what you like based upon what you love. Do what you love. Be great at what you love. Be passionate about what you love. Master what you love and build a career around it. Then nobody can stop you. And I know I went too long, Chris, but I'm passionate about people building careers they love.
Oh, that's fine. I am taking over the live stream now because Michael just put this in the chat box, and Michael is my sworn enemy now. So Michael says, I got an MS from Mississippi College in Clinton, Mississippi, about 10 miles west of Jackson. So blah, 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 blah. Before getting into med school and then choosing IT. I went to a school called Delta State University. And Delta State University and Mississippi College are immediate rivals, instant rivals. They dislike each other. They have a trophy that they fight over for their athletic events and all kinds of stuff. So I had to pop this up here. They're two small schools, two schools of about 2,000 students each. So like there's high schools in Florida that are twice the size of these schools. So the fact that I found somebody on YouTube,
I love that.
that is part of that went to a school 2 hours away from where I went to school. That's awesome. So I just wanted to pop that up there.
And Michael, there's a gentleman I know who's a Navy SEAL and a filmmaker with your exact last name, and he's a really impressive guy. So if that's you, thank you for your service. I'm assuming that's not you, and it's just a common Nigerian last name. Got lots of Addies in my world and love it. But, if that is you, thank you for your service.
Yeah. So I asked Michael in the chat box how they ended up at MC. Hopefully he'll respond to me. Like I said,
I love it. Starting in healthcare, desire for healthcare, moving to tech. Michael, we could be twins.
Yep. So let me. All right. So it looks like Elonzo's back, so I'm going to put him back on. All right. So now that I'm done taking over the challenge, the channel, let me put up. An actual question here. And again, Michael, let me know how you got to MC. I'm intrigued. It's a small school, so. All right, let's go back to people asking me about grouper sandwiches.
Oh, I love black and grouper sandwiches. I used to get them all the time around here.
I've been very disappointed by the grouper sandwiches. Everybody talks about the grouper sandwiches.
They're good. Where are you getting them?
I need to be in Southeast Florida for grouper sandwiches.
They are bland. They have no taste.
You get them blackened?
Yeah.
I get whatever they give me.
You got to get them blackened.
You can't get it. Yeah, the regular stuff tastes like hospital food. So yeah,
there used to be a Sheraton right by my house. I used to go every day for lunch. Black and grouper sandwich. If I wasn't traveling, I was there.
Yeah,
like black and grouper sandwich, no French fries in a salad, no bun and a piece of fruit, right, Mike? And I'd say yes.
See, I love flavor. I gotta have flavor. I gotta have spice. I gotta have something to make it good. But every group, like I've had grouper sandwiches like 5 times now, and they've all been.
Wow.
It's like cod. Like cod has no taste.
Not the grouper I've ever had. So that's
Just going
a
to the wrong place.
Chris, we need to do things. I'm not a big cod fan, but if you take the Jamaican ackee, I think ackee is also in Africa,
Yes.
and you mix cod and ackee like in Jamaica, now that's something good. So I'm not a big cod fan, but with the right spices, specifically, I love anything Jamaican or Greek. There's that.
Yeah. All right. So let me go. Let me look in the questions here. I know we're starting to wrap up. So let me look here.
Because I'm talking about cod and ackee, I love Jamaican everything.
Well, I have not eaten today.
Okay.
So I got to get off of this sea bass and grouper and cod, and I'm eating fish on the way home apparently. So, all right.
Healthier than what you normally eat. Healthier than what you eat for lunch.
Okay, so B2D.1. I think I know who this is. I can't remember. For the EVENG, what amount of hardware do you recommend prior to downloading for use in hand with architecture course? Ooh.
B2.1. EVENG is a configuration tool to do network engineering, which is not architecture. So I recommend you learn network architecture and not learn how to do network engineering unless you want to be a cloud network engineer. I recommend that you train for the job that you're interested in and not somebody else's. So I recommend that you focus exclusively on how to design networks as a network architect and read books like the Internet Routing Architecture book, which teaches you how to design it, because that's what you do as an architect as opposed to how to configure it. I was a network architect. Well, in 2000, I became a network architect in 2000. You know when the last time I touched the command line on a Cisco router until I decided to teach it to students? 2000, because architects don't touch the tech. So I recommend you focus on learning architecture, not configuration. That's why I don't like learn by doing. It doesn't work for architects at all, ever. They'll never get hired by learn by doing. This is a learn how to design. This is a knowledge position, not a configuration job. For you want to be a cloud network engineer, then I recommend about 16 cores minimum, 20 cores minimum, 128 gigs of RAM to 256 gigs of RAM, and a couple of SSD drives. I use my EVNG server that I use has 24 cores, 128 gigs of RAM, and a 1 million IOPS NVMe RAID.
And let's be clear, the EVENG server that you just talked about, am I correct in saying that was not set up? You didn't even set that up until a year into the program because you only did it for the CCNA?
I created it for the CCNA bootcamp, and I use it with my cloud network engineers. And occasionally, I do a class where I demo the thing, and I say, hey, cloud architects, look at the routing table. Look what happens if I close this link down. I'm not going to train my cloud architects to configure networking because they're going to have a skill that's not valid. So B2 point, while you're focusing on configuring Cisco routers and not learning how to design them, your competition is training on how to design them. And then it comes down to an interview. And now you're an expert configurer. But the manager doesn't want a configurer. They want a designer, and you don't have those skills, and they hire the other person. So that's why we don't make those recommendations for engineers. For architects. Engineers we do.
Yep. And the point that I was making is that server wasn't physically in place and used by us until our CCNA boot camp in January.
Yes.
And so we had countless people in our architect program that had never even seen EVENG.
Yeah.
And that got hired.
Yeah.
It's not like we were trying to basically cheap out on servers. I got 6 servers sitting here that aren't even being used that I bought just in case we could add capacity. I just wasn't going to take my students off of learning architecture to learn engineering because that would be not getting them a cloud hired. That would making them cloud unhireable versus cloud hired. And I'm all about getting hired versus learning skills for somebody else's job.
Yep.
But I recommend you learn the protocols and read those books. That'll make you a great cloud architect, and you'll be fantastic.
Definitely. So, this was a great show. This was probably one of my easier ones, other than the book show. The book show was really easy, but that was because it was really fun, and you guys outguided me. But this one was really easy because Mike got to do a lot of the talking, and I got to do a lot of listening.
This one was really challenging because there was nobody helping me out here.
Yeah. So it's kind of like it was almost like a Q&A session with me on the screen.
Alonzo was moving around till he got here. You're helping me out. It's like it was almost like a Q&A session, but I really wanted to work very hard to give people the skills they know. Anybody that wants a cloud architect job, I want them to get it. Anybody that wants a cloud engineering job, I want them to get it. Our students, somebody else's students, I don't care. I want everybody cloud hired. And I think we had a nice open dialogue tonight from all over the place. I'm always happy about these things.
Yep. I mean, we started off talking about the different roles and architects and engineers, and we ended with me finding somebody that went to a school down the street from me, and me learning that I'm eating the wrong group of sandwiches. So
Got to be blackened for them to be good. Oh, I'll tell you this: jerk spice, a little bit of coconut oil that could go well, along with some rice and peas. I can recommend that. I can recommend a red stripe beer to go along with it. If you, well, I won't recommend the red stripe beer, but you know, there's that. I will recommend.
I'll recommend it.
You'll recommend it? Okay.
I'll recommend it to you.
I'll reach out to them after this and see about an endorsement.
Sounds good. And of course, a little reggae music in the background, a little Bob Marley, Ziggy Marley, Damian Marley, Skip Marley, and I'm all kinds of happy. You know what I'm doing tonight? I'm blackening. I'm going to make some jerk spice somethings tonight.
Oh, yeah. All right.
Yeah.
So
I should take AJ, who's one of my students, who's also Marine. He's one of the finest people I've ever met. And he's also a chef. So maybe AJ and I should do some cooking. AJ, you want to leave California, come to Florida, and cook up some Jamaican food with me and Greek food?
Yeah.
all right, guys. So the time has come. The end is near.
Almighty is going to drink it. I'll come too. We welcome everybody.
All right. So, Mike, I think you got a couple of things to talk about before we leave. If you want to remind people about some things that we have coming up, I'm just gonna relax in the hammock here, and you do your thing.
So you said Daddy's back, and now I've got a job to do. So what we're going to talk, what I'm being told to remind everybody out. Let me go through. Let me make sure I got it all. So we want to remind everybody about the following. We're going to do a completely free Azure Solution Architect Expert Bootcamp, completely free. You sign up. The link is in the description below. It's going to be party time. You know, we're a little blunt around here, but we love to teach, and we're truly our passion. And Elonzo and I are going to be, I'll be designing things. Alonzo's going to build some stuff. That's going to be fun party time. And it's live and it's free. So join us. On the 25th of May, please join us. Please, we're going to have a fun interview session. As they say in The Art of War, know yourself, know your enemy, and you'll never fear the result of 1,000 battles. Know yourself and not your enemy. For every win, there's one loss. Know your enemy and not yourself. For every win, there's one loss. And don't know yourself, don't know your enemy, you'll always lose. So interviews are war. You know, the world wants to say it's not, but you win. Only one person gets hired. So interviews are war. And I want you to win the war. So know yourself, know your competition, and win. What do I mean by win? Cloud hired. So do that. So learn on the interview. Learn if you've got the skills. Learn your competition and get yourself cloud hired. We're doing it live and free. And fantastic. AJ's willing to cook with me. AJ's amazing. So AJ, you know what? One day, either in Florida or California, we're going to cook together. Because I also wanted to be a chef and almost became one. So let's talk about the 50% off for a couple more days, and it's gone forever. A pre-sale discount on our Cloud Engineer program. If you've ever wanted to be a cloud engineer, now's your time. We have a deep training program, and we're just kicking it off. And please join us, half off, and we'll get you cloud hired, because that's our world, cloud hired. So we'll do our best to get everybody cloud hired that ever takes our training program. And of course, if you want to be a cloud architect, we'll do everything we can to build you the best cloud architect career with our Cloud Architect Career Development Program. And I believe we have 20% off we can offer on that, Chris. If you want to provide a coupon code to that, or have Chad provide that coupon code, this is a single one-stop shop. It's about 500 hours of training to help you get your first cloud architect job. Got like 3 or 4 people cloud architect jobs so far this week, and we're only in the second day.
All right. That was a good roundup, Mike.
Sounds good. So I hope everybody had a fun time. I had fun with you. Loved answering questions, and I look forward to seeing you all very soon.
All
Cloud
right.
Higher, everybody.
Alonzo, you want to throw in any last
Thank
words
you.
before we leave?
Well, as always, I'm always happy to be here, even though I missed most of it. But I really love being a part of the community. I love everyone answering questions, and I'm looking forward to all the participation that we'll have for our new classes, especially for the actual professional or the architecture course that's happening next month. So I hope everyone can make it. If you're not a student or you know someone who's interested in changing over, please have them join us. It's just an amazing community, and let's continue to grow, learn, and share together.
And I'll ask something because I'm trying to learn how to do YouTube. If you're not a subscriber, please subscribe and hit the bell. If you had a good time, please hit the like button for us. It signals the algorithm we're doing something good. So, see, somebody's going to teach me YouTube.
Eventually. You've been doing it long enough.
That's true.
All right. All right. Well, I don't have anything else to add. I'm just clicking these comments over here, making sure everybody gets popped up on the screen here.
Can you give me a Cloud Hired and your geography as you're signing off?
All right.
Like I'm in Port St. Lucie, Florida. Alonzo's around Houston. I know Chris is in the St. Petersburg area.
I'm in Key West in my mind. All right.
Dash, my team is fantastic, and thank you.
That's Chris's alter ego.
And let's not forget, we've got Chow in Texas and Leo in Brazil and
Eddie in Cameroon.
Now
so we're very global, and we care about our people all over.
Yep. So I got some things that are taking a second to pop in over here. All right, there we go. All right.
One time, Chow was even in Asia for a little while.
Yeah.
So you know.
So, all right. Well, it's been another great Tuesday. Thanks, everybody. I'm disappearing again. Let's see if I can disappear. No, it's not. It's not working now.
You mean like when I wore a green shirt today and I was like the Invisible Man? That was kind of cool.
Yeah.
Oh, you're from Trinidad. Fantastic. I've got some Atsuks actually sitting in my refrigerator as well. Love that. Love that. Love that.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Take care. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
See you later.